Recording in progress.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We are happy to be starting our regular meeting, and we are all wanting to wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and we're excited to get good things done today. We'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance led by County Manager Jennifer Davidson.
The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll begin with public comment on matters over which we have jurisdiction and control but are not listed on the agenda unless you can't be here later when the agenda item is heard. We allow 3 minutes for public comment, and a yellow light will go on at 2.5 minutes, and you'll hear a little beep, and at 3 minutes, you'll hear more beeps and a red light. And there are some other restrictions you can read in the agenda itself. Welcome, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you. Good morning. Merry Christmas. Before the meeting started, I went over and talked to the sheriff, and I thanked him for being our sheriff. I've been watching the events at Brown University and the press conferences that the sheriff and the mayor there have been giving. I have never seen such incompetence in my life in a position of police chief. And I wanted to thank our sheriff for being a very competent and very good sheriff and protecting this county. I didn't want that to go unknown. The other thing I wanted to discuss is term limits. Right now, you each have a 4-year term. Our House of Representatives has a 2-year term. The reason for that is that if you were unhappy with the House of Representatives, in every 2 years, you could get rid of them and hire a whole bunch of new folks if you didn't like what they were doing. I would think that that might be a good thing to do here. Reason being is that if you have a 2-year term and you do something we don't like, don't keep a promise, vote for something that we don't want, all that, we don't have to wait 4 years to correct that. We can do it fairly quickly. It's just an idea. I know probably a lot of people don't have that, but I was thinking about that the other day and stuff. There's a few other things I want to mention, but I'm going to wait until after one of the agenda items. So I'll save my comments until then or at the end of the meeting because I want to see how that goes. But Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thanks again to being a very good sheriff.
Thank you. Ms. Christensen.
Morning. I wanted to state for the record that the cleanout of Smelter Creek began nearly 2 weeks ago.
Would you state your name?
I'm sorry, Rachel Christensen, Runstrath resident. I'm going to state for the record that the cleanout of the Smelter Creek began nearly 2 weeks ago without engineering plans or fully executed contracts. As previously discussed with Jennifer, Mark, and Charla, local residents who understand the flow of the creek should have been included in the process. Instead, that input was ignored, leaving the work to be figured out by those without necessary engineering expertise or local knowledge of the creek and how it flows. The creek has been altered into a straight path rather than necessarily winding course, which now directs water flow towards several homes. With this atmospheric river approaching, there is a significant risk of flooding. This work proceeded knowing without proper corrections being made when the opportunity existed. As I spoke last week, what was going on. Well, I wish you all a Merry Christmas. The residents here will be facing this holiday under the stress of potential flooding. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment. And before we go any further, we want to wish Commissioner Tarkanian a very happy birthday today.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
If you were here, we would sing. So probably good you're not.
Did you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay.
I do not want you to sing, so I'm glad I'm not there.
Agenda item 4, approval of agenda. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Gardner.
move for the approval of the proposed agenda as presented.
If you don't, I will. I'll second it.
It's been moved by Commissioner Gardner and seconded by Commissioner Rice, who we are very happy to have with us in person today, that we approve the agenda. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Approval of previous minutes, draft minutes of the November 6, 2025 regular and special joint meeting with Lyon County and November 20 regular meeting.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the previous minutes as stated.
I can't because that was the one meeting that I was not able to attend during my trials.
I'll second it.
I don't mean criminal trials.
It's been moved by Commissioner Tolbert, seconded by Commissioner Tarkanian, that we approve these minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Oh, carries 4-0 with Commissioner Rice abstaining. Thank you. Consent calendar. Does anyone have anything to pull, or is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent items from A through Q.
It's been moved by Commissioner Rice that we approve the consent, second by Commissioner Gardner. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Agenda item 8. This is a celebration of a great audit. For possible action, discussion to accept the Douglas County Fiscal Year 2024-25 Financial Audit and Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, commonly called ACFR, for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2025, prepared by Douglas County Auditor Eide Bailey Public Accountants. And we have Kathy Lewis, Chief Operating Officer, to present.
Thank you. I'm Kathy Lewis for the record. Before I turn it over to Eide Bailey, online we have our partner David and our audit manager Layla. I will let you know that this was presented to the audit committee on Tuesday and they accepted it to be forwarded to you guys for review and acceptance. So I'll turn over to David. Let me know, David, if you have the ability to share.
Good morning, Board of Commissioners. For the record, my name is David Showalter. Can everyone see the presentation on the screen?
We can, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for having us this morning. Also on the call is Layla El-Simari. She's the audit manager working on the audit for Douglas County. So what we're presenting to you is the results of the audit of the county's financial statements for June 30th, 2025. So our responsibility was to audit the financial statements of the county, which is the audit of the annual comprehensive financial report, or you've heard of it as referred to as the ACFR. And we also provided a report to you on internal controls over financial reporting and on compliance. And you should have all those reports in your packet. We also have a required communications letter that is also included in your packet, and I'll cover that on one of the slides. So our responsibility, in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, is to form an opinion whether the financial statements, which were the responsibility of county management with your oversight, are presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with U.S. generally accepted accounting principles. And our responsibility is to plan and perform our audit to obtain reasonable rather than absolute assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. So the summary of the audit results in the audit opinion, which is included in the financial statements, indicates that the financial statements are free of material misstatement in all material respects. So it's an unmodified or a clean audit opinion for the year. And in our government auditing standards report, we did not identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies this year. So we're very happy to report that as well. And in our auditor communications letter, which is a separate letter that's included in your packet, our audit standards do require that we present this letter to those charged with the governance. So the letter was provided to the audit committee, and then it's provided to the board of commissioners as well. And basically, it summarizes several aspects of the audit, including our ethics and independence, that we are, in fact, independent of the county, and we have complied with all ethical requirements. In the letter, we also comment on any significant accounting policies that are reflected in the financial statements. In this particular year, there was a new accounting pronouncement that was adopted, GASB Statement Number 101, Compensated Absences. Significant risks identified. With respect to our audit, we have communicated to you the significant risks, including management override, controls, revenue recognition risk, pension liabilities, and OPEB liabilities. And why we communicate those risks to you is in the fact that when we're planning and conducting the audit, these are areas that we focus in on with respect to our audit procedures. Pension liabilities and OPEB liabilities are significant, primarily because of their balances, and that there are actuarial determinations surrounding those particular liabilities. So
Mr.
we get an understanding.
Oh,
Yes.
Would you just explain OPEB?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Other post-employment benefit liabilities. So this would be your medical insurance that you offer to your retirees when they retire. And then sensitive estimates and disclosures, again, surrounding the pension liabilities and the other post-employment benefit liabilities. And then lastly, on the slide on the right, we did not have any uncorrected or corrected misstatements as a result of our audit. And we did not have any difficulties with the audit, and there were no disagreements with management with the audit this year. So overall, the audit went really smoothly, and we were happy to be able to issue the opinions just before Thanksgiving. So that was really good for everybody who worked on the audit, and I definitely want to thank Kathy and her team for all of their hard work with the audit this year. The audit doesn't necessarily begin in November. It goes all the way back to basically June is when we start the field work, and we come in around September, October, doing our final phase of the audit, and then around November we're working through the final touches on the ACFR, and then issuing in that just before that November 30th timeline. So there's a lot of effort that goes into the audit, both on iBailey side, but mostly on the county side, getting everything prepared for us. So we're thankful for all of their effort, and that concludes the presentation.
Does it get any better than this, Mr. Showalter?
This was a great year, so we're very thankful for that.
Kathy Lewis, for the record, I just have a couple comments. I'll make sure I get this centered. When David talked about the OPEB liability, it is a requirement that we look at what post-employment benefits, what the liability is, but the county does not offer retirees health insurance. We do allow them to be on our plan, but we do not subsidize or we do not provide any kind of benefit to that. So I want to make sure that was clear. They do affect our plan, but it's not a direct benefit to retirees. I think I'm messing up that words, but I want to make sure that was clear in what we do there. The other piece that we talked about is I want to take the time, David was very sweet to say my name, but it really was the finance team behind me that I've asked them to join that really put in the hard work to get the audit done. And then looking back, because I've been asked, we didn't have any financial statement audit findings this year and what it looked like. And so I did this quick chart back in 1819 when Eide Bailly became our auditors for the first time. There were 12 findings. And over the years, the county has whittled that down and worked through those findings that this year we have 0, which is a great news. I would love to take any kind of credit for that, but it was not done under my watch. It was done with the hard work of the finance department. It was done with the hard work of the county. It was done hard work of many to get to this point. Now I'll turn it back over.
As you know, I asked you to share this because I think it's remarkable, and it speaks to Terry Willoughby and also to you and largely to your team, which is really, really fantastic. And just, I couldn't be happier about this. So, do you want to introduce your team, who you have here?
I would love to, although I forget my own name when I get to speaking publicly. So if I forget, please. We have Carolyn Sheffo. She is our acting finance manager. Kathy Kaiser, our accounting manager. We have Andrea Kent, who's payroll. We have Debbie Carter, who's our accountant. Candy, who's our accountant. And Lewis, accountant. And I think we have Debbie Swickert, who was not able to come, and our AP, and we have a couple other people still back at the office, but here's our team.
Just really remarkable success, and we really appreciate all your hard work getting here. All right, that said, we probably have questions on some of this. Does anybody? Commissioner Tolbert.
Last meeting we had quite a bit of comment about transparency and how the county needs to work to make sure that we can ensure the community's trust. And so I think this goes a long way to show how well the finance department is working and making sure they maintain, and having a third party review, I think is a very important step, and I really appreciate that. But I do have one question that's kind of outside of this. It's been asked very recently about our budgeting that was brought forth about the percentage of our budget that goes to employees versus the public sector. So can you address that a little bit, and why that is, and whether that's our numbers are common, or just to be a little more, to answer that specific question that's been rumbling around the public.
Thank you. I'm Kathy Lewis for record, and thank you for that question. It is part of our budget kickoff. We go through the different funds, the general fund and funds overall, and look at our percentage of that budget that is allocated to personnel, wages and benefits and retirement. In the general fund, it is I think around 70-something%. I should have looked before I came. That is very common in a service industry. If you think in the general fund houses our people. It houses our elected officials. It houses community development. It houses our internal service departments. That is our service, is our people. If you look at the county overall, when you bring in the construction costs, that percentage, of course, goes down. But that one fund is specifically to account for people and services, general government services. And so that is a very common and even in private business. If it's a people-centered or a service industry, that percentage is usually between 70 and 80% of the budget is people costs.
So if I'm understanding, Douglas County delivers a service, right, to the public. And so that service is the people providing that service. We don't generate widgets, right? So we don't have costs of production of a widget. We have people. So that it makes sense that a large portion of our funds would be the people that actually provide the service, correct?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that is. Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Rice.
Madam Chair, for those that have been around long enough to remember this dark period that our county went through called Tiregate, I hate to quote a cigarette commercial, but you've come a long way, baby. I mean to tell you, our team has done more to secure the finances of this county than anything that I can recall. I know when I had my own budget, that was a couple of weeks ago, I had a budget of over $6 million. That much of it was discretionary. The rest of it was mandated. So it wasn't hard to stay within my budget, but you guys have done a marvelous job. And thank you, one and all, for what you've done for this county.
Commissioner Tarkanian, would you like to add anything?
Nope, just great job.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, with the new administration at the federal level, there was created a Department of Government Efficiency. And so we had a number of residents reach out to me suggesting that we institute a similar item here in the county. And my response was, we already do, okay? And we always have. And I would say that there are basically 4 checkpoints that I can identify. There may be more, but first of all, of course, as Commissioner Rice has indicated, out of the issue that we had with Tiregate, we created the audit committee, and that is the first one of the stopgap guardrails we have in regards to watching our expenditures. Number 2, we do have, as today we're identifying and is illustrated in this document here, and is our independent audit, not done internally, okay? This is an independent audit, and we have no control over that and what their findings are. And so I know when I was a member of the public back in 17, I believe it was, we actually had about 22 findings, okay? And that wasn't on the chart, but now we're down to 0. So that is a tremendous improvement over those years. And I would also suggest that we also have, for those of you who don't know, we have an anonymous hotline, waste, fraud, and abuse. And that's a checkpoint also, okay? So if you suspect anywhere in our county that there is waste, fraud, or abuse occurring within our county, please take the opportunity to use that hotline to notify us, because these problems can get out of hand very, very rapidly. And so we need to make sure that we have a checkpoint there. And then I would suggest that, we're in the process right now of looking at our budgets for 26, 27. And so we are already planning meetings of this board, special meetings in March and May, as required by statute, where we will review 4 days of meetings, where we will review the planned budget for 26, 27. It seems to be, it's incredible to me that we do those 4 days of meetings. When we meet with every department, we go over their budgets, line item by line item. And unfortunately, members of the public don't seem to attend as well as I would suggest they should, and doing that audit themselves on where we're spending money. So I would encourage you, I think it's March 23 and 24, and then the last week of March, 2 more days, where all the department heads will come to us with their budgets. And so, and we'll look at them line item by line item. So I would encourage your attendance at those meetings also, okay? So thank you, and this is a great report and great progress.
Thank you, commissioners. I don't have anything to add. Just really appreciate your good work. All right. This is for possible action. Is there a motion? Oh. Is there public comment?
Don't everybody get up at once.
Seeing no public comment, is there a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we accept the Douglas County Fiscal Year 24-25 Financial Audit and Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, the AACFR, for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2025, prepared by Douglas County Outside Auditor Ide Bailey, Public Accountants.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Tolbert, seconded by Commissioner Rice. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you. Ms. Lewis.
Thank you. I have one more comment. The single audit, which is the audit of our federal funds, is not included in this report. The federal government just finalized the guidance for that audit, and so we will start that audit next and come back to you with that report when it's finished.
Thank you. Agenda item 9.1 for presentation only, introduction of ordinance 2025-1659, an ordinance amending various provisions of Title VI of the Douglas County Code pertaining to animals. The ordinance adds new definitions to clarify code language, modifying certain procedures related to dangerous and vicious dogs, updating procedures related to the number of dogs a person may keep, revising requirements for dog breeders, dog fanciers, dog rescues, pet services, pet shops, and kennels, amending appeal procedures, revising procedures related to the impoundment of animals, clarifying provisions related to animal cruelty, updating the Animal Services Euthanasia policy, and amending provisions related to investigations, citations, and penalties for noncompliance. This is a first reading. Brooke Ady from Community Services.
Thank you, Brooke Ady, Community Services Director. You covered a lot of what I was going to go over, which is in the action. So we had brought this forward a few years ago to do some revisions. And since then, we identified some areas where we needed some additional clarification or some cleanup of the language just to address some of the things that we had been finding over the years with the most recent change. When we brought this back before, we basically did a complete overwrite, which I think was in 2022. We did a really big overhaul of Title VI. And so these changes are more minor, addressing all of the things that you had described. So I'm here. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are there questions? I don't see any questions. And this is not for action, so no public comment, but thank you for being here. Agenda item 9.2 for possible action, discussion to approve a total of $399,562 in grant payments from Douglas County to the Family Support Council, Partnership Douglas County, Carson Valley Health, Moxie Up, Carson City Community Counseling Center, and the Suicide Prevention Network to provide services related to opioid prevention, treatment, and recovery, using previously received opioid settlement funds, and to authorize the Community Services Director to sign the grant funding agreements for each individual organization. Ms. Ady, Community Services Director.
Good morning again. Brooke Ady, Community Services Director. I'm here to talk about the grant program that we put forward for the Douglas County One Nevada funds. You had identified in the reading who all is getting some funding, and so, or who we would recommend for funding. I'll go over some of the activities that each one of those organizations is going to do with the funding. This is the second year of this grant program. Last year was our first year. This is our second year. So we did a solicitation. We opened it up to receive grant applications. We had 7 applicants, and we are recommending funding for 6 of them for either some or all of the funding that they requested. We receive their applications, we review their applications, and then we bring them in for interviews to get some clarification on all of the activities that they are going to be doing. So just a little bit of history on the One Nevada funds and some background. This was an agreement that was signed by Governor Sisolak in 2019 in consultation with the Attorney General Aaron Ford. This includes all 17 counties, 10 cities, 2 fire protection districts, who all came together for this litigation in August of 2021. When we are using these funds, we must provide reports to the state on all of the activities that we are doing. Their reporting period goes from January to December, which is why we're doing our grant cycle January through December, so that we're able to report to them. They provide us a template of all the things that they want us to let them know that we're doing with the funding. The funding was made available through opioid-related litigation, and there are several things that we're attempting to mitigate through these funds. So we remediate the harms and impact and risks caused by the opioid epidemic, direct funding to resolve issues that drive the opioid crisis, and all of the counties and the regions were required to complete a needs assessment when the funding first became available. Douglas County did the needs assessment, and it was approved by the Board of County Commissioners in April of 2023, I believe. So as a result of our needs assessment, we identified, I believe there are 9 areas of focus. Through our needs assessment, we hired an outside consultant who came in and had several different workshops with stakeholders, looking at the things that they were finding in the community that needed to be addressed. So case management was something that came about that was really big. What we've done with our social services department is we have transitioned all of our case managers to licensed social workers, because we recognized through this process that it was really important to have a really robust case management program. So as people were being referred to services, social services could really be a hub of information and referral. So case management was something that came about. And that is really to help not only the person that is impacted by opioid use themselves, but their families, because there is a family impact, a very large family impact. Increased efforts related to opioid prescription education, prevent youth drug use by supporting Douglas County School District and prevention activities, explore opportunities for intervention through the criminal justice system, creating an education campaign for the general public, decrease barriers for individuals, leaving detox and entering treatment, so residential treatment or outpatient treatment, support local aftercare and recovery services, and then encourage growth of substance misuse treatment and case management workforce. These were, did you have a question, Commissioner Tarkanian?
No, I'm sorry. My daughter walked in. I apologize.
Oh, okay. So these areas in the needs assessment were what we put in our application. So when people were applying for funding, we said, how do you meet one of these or a couple of these requirements that we found that our community really needs? Through this grant process, we're meeting a couple things. We're meeting the needs that have been identified in our needs assessment, but we're also meeting some strategic plan goals too. So in our 2024 strategic plan, one of the goals was public health, so building partnerships to support residents and obtaining quality, reliable healthcare with a focus on mental and behavioral health. This grant program really does that. It helps us partner with our community partners who are experts in their field to meet this strategic plan goal. Community partnerships engage with partners to explore information and resource sharing, foster collaborative approaches, and then mental and behavioral health. So updating the community needs assessment and working with providers of behavioral and mental health services. So this meets our goals of the One Nevada needs assessment, but also our strategic plan. So we're accomplishing several different things. So here are One Nevada applicants for 2026. So Carson Valley Health, their goal is to provide aftercare, recovery services, and community education. So through the funding, we're able to provide 3 therapists and alcohol and drug counseling-led support groups. 1 is for youth mental health, and then 2 are for adults with substance use disorder. They're going to be hosting some educational seminars across various Douglas County locations, and then they're going to host some Suboxone training for providers and first responders. So these are the activities that Carson Valley Health is going to be able to do with the funding that we're recommending. Partnership Douglas County they are going to work with the Douglas County School District. We were able to start this, I believe, in October or November of this year. This is a program that's going to carry forward. The Douglas County Partnership has been using the One Nevada grant funds that we gave them to fund a position at the Douglas County School District for a prevention specialist. This is a school district employee who is housed within the school district who is able to provide prevention, education, and support. This is a really big step. It's been there can be challenges with getting outside entities into the school to provide programming, and this is a way where we have a prevention specialist that has direct access to the students because they are a school district employee. They are going to do Third Millennium, which is a partner with juvenile probation to utilize EB online prevention and intervention courses, which will be used as a part of behavioral challenges to help strategies to help their juveniles. And then provide increased early intervention by training local professionals that work with children on how to administer the ACEs, which is a self-assessment looking for adverse childhood experiences, also working with juvenile probation and then the school social workers.
Would you like to take questions as we go?
I can, yes, absolutely.
I just want to point out, I think EB means evidence-based.
Yes, yes.
And I truly appreciate that because there have been a lot of non-evidence-based efforts regarding drug use in the past. And those are not a good use of money. And so I really appreciate the focus on spending money in ways that have been proven to be effective.
Yes. Thank you for mentioning that, Brooke Community Services Director. When we are looking at the programming that these organizations are wanting to provide, they all must be evidence-based. We are funding programs. That is a requirement of the state. That's a requirement that we have, that they're all evidence-based programs. Community Counseling Center. We have partnered with them the last year, and this is a program that we're carrying forward this year to reduce financial barriers to treatment for Douglas County adults being able to access treatment, residential treatment, inpatient, outpatient, because whether they have insurance or not, even when individuals have insurance, being able to meet the deductibles and the copays can be a burden. And so this funding is going to help reduce those burdens, help cover copayments and deductibles so that they can access treatment. And then also provide youth mental health services, assisting with the same types of financial barriers. So Carson City Community Counseling Center is located in Carson City where their residential treatment facility is, but they also have offices here in Douglas County. They have an office across the street from Carson Valley Middle School, which is where they can serve a lot of the youth population. Family Support Council. So Douglas High School students will receive existing education and referrals with added information on substance abuse and its impact on domestic violence. Family Support Council staff will attend Safe and Together core trainings to identify the impact of domestic violence on children and their family functioning. Adults participating in their programs, their parenting programs, co-parenting programs, will also be self-assessed for ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences, to see what impacts their experiences have had on them as adults and make referral and to different various treatments as needed. And then the pediatric assessment, and so that is the same type of an assessment, but it is done on the youth. And so it's looking at children and what the impact of the situation that they are facing right now is going to have on their risk factors for future mental health and substance use issues. Suicide Prevention Network, and so this funding these dollars help fund a harm reduction specialist who will do a lot of outreach and marketing, prevention, education throughout Douglas County. The community programs coordinator will provide group sessions for people needing safe and support space through their post-traumatic stress disorders. That's what PTSD is. And they deliver life skills program groups. And then they'll host 3 separate conferences aimed at educating community members on harm reduction tools, resilience, coping with recovery, and mental illness. Moxie Up, they are looking at doing 2 different things with the funding that we're proposing that they receive. Brainiacs, ADHD therapeutic groups, and so this is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder individuals. So youth that have been diagnosed with ADHD are more at risk to use substances. And so they want to hold weekly evidence-based therapy groups for youth who have been identified as ADHD. And then they're also doing a pilot program, which is a behavioral health incubator. It's a living room model where they're going to be providing space for clinicians to be able to do therapy in their building, help grow clinicians. So when you have clinicians that come out of college or that are just getting started up, sometimes the cost of having space can be prohibitive. And so this group, these funds will help provide space for these clinicians to help build up their practices.
Ms. Adie, before we leave Moxie,
Yes.
could I ask you a question? And I've gotten individuals from the public have recently reached out to me about they appear to have moved their offices. It looks like they closed their offices, and that I guess that's the point of this question.
Yeah.
Is that they haven't closed their offices? They are still in existence, but they've moved their offices off of 395, and I think it was Buckeye and 395. Where have they relocated to? Do we know?
Yep, they are now located in the Ranchos. Colleen Lawrence is here, and she can tell you the exact address, but it is, I believe, it's off of Tillman. And so they have a space off of Tillman.
I just wanted to assure the public it has
Yes.
not gone away. It's still a program.
Yeah.
And we need to identify that. Yeah, thank you.
And so they have moved into the Ranchos, which is a good location for them because there are more limited services and access to getting into town for like the youth in the Ranchos. And so they are out there now. I would also like to say that there are several members from the organizations that are being funded. So if you guys have questions, yes, you can ask them also. The Life Change Center was an organization that had applied for funding that we decided not to fund at this year. They are an organization that is out of Reno that has expanded into Carson City, and they were looking to expand into Douglas. We felt at this time, we weren't ready to fund this type of program. I think that there are things that are already happening in the jail with other treatment providers. And so what they wanted to do was to deliver methadone to Douglas County residents. So they were reducing the financial barriers to receiving the methadone treatment, and they were going to be bringing it into the community and into the jail. And we already have treatment providers who are working really closely with the jail. And then they wanted to be able to provide treatment from jail or prison, transportation, and then monitor their treatment. So we already have an agreement with some treatment providers to do this type of thing. And so we thought that maybe not at this time, but if the need were to increase, then maybe we can look at funding them in the future. And so again, each agency will be required to show data throughout the agreed upon documentation and for the period starting January through December, and then we provide that data to the state. Okay.
I have a question.
And that is all.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm sure you track not just how they, the actions they take to meet their goals and their plans, but I'm sure you track opioid use in the county. And I guess I'm wondering, when would the members of the public get a report on the ultimate success of this money being spent?
Brooke Adie, Community Services Director. We can come back at the end of this grant cycle to report on how each of the organizations have done with the funding that we have received or that they have received. We can certainly do that. There are statewide efforts that track opioid use throughout the community. And I want to emphasize that the opioid use is the pathway that got us here with these funds, but they're really intended to address behavioral health overall, behavioral health, mental health, substance use. They have a much wider reach when we're looking at prevention, treatment, and recovery services. But the UNR, they collect a lot of data on opioid use throughout the state. They have different surveys that they put out to the youth and to adults that captures that type of information. Each organization that does receive funding, they will report back to us data on how many people they've served, what types of people they've served, how they've used their funds, things like that.
Good. I know we get that in the Board of Health meetings, but those are much less widely attended by or monitored by the public. I think it'd be good for the public to know. So in the future, I would like to maybe link that next year when these come back, or
Yes.
something similar.
Yep.
Are there other questions? Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you. I have several questions, yes. Sorry, commissioners. First of all, I want to say thank you, and these are all tremendous programs in our community and very critical programs in our community, and I appreciate the folks that are here that are involved in these programs. Thank you for bringing these programs to our community. It's unfortunate we have to use them, okay, but it's great that we have them, okay? So I want to recognize that. The amount of money that we get on an annual basis out of the opioid settlement, how much is that? I mean, this is $400,000 basically. I thought we were getting more than that out of the opioid settlement. Am I mistaken?
Brooke 80 Community Services Director, the amount of settlement funds that we get each year varies based on the agreements that we have with each individual distributor or manufacturer of opioids. And so we get settlements throughout the year. And so what we have been able to do is look at what are the funds that we've received so far today and what we've spent. The state does financial projections on what we should be getting each year. And we partner with them and their financial projections to look at how much funding we have available year after year for the funding. And maybe Mr. Ritchie could jump in if there's any additional information, because he's been pretty involved in that too.
Does this maximize our funds, or do we have additional funds available? Yes.
Doug Ritchie with the District Attorney's Office. What do you mean by maximize revenues?
I mean, this is 400,000.
Yes.
Are we getting more than 400,000 from the opioid fund, or is this what we're getting?
This is the available funds for this year.
For this year. Okay.
Next year there'll be there's a projection based on the existing settlement agreements. There's a stream of income for the next 10, 15 years, depending.
And that was my next question: is how many years? I know it was not 1 year, 2 years. It was an extended period of time.
It's multiple years.
Yeah.
Also, we are still in litigation, and there'll be
Other
more
funds.
settlements that will be coming forward to the board. However, I will say that probably the majority of the funds, we've reached settlements already with the major manufacturers and distributors.
It's absolutely critical, and it's great that we have these funds available for these organizations, because quite frankly, we just don't have that money available in our general fund, and we need to have, these programs need to be in existence for our community, so that's great. And I think I've asked this question before in previous years, but I can't remember what the answer was. Are these funds not available for funding of programs in our China Springs Aurora program here in Douglas County?
Brooke 80 Community Services Director, yes, the funds could be used to support some programs out at China Spring. I have had discussions with their director about different funding needs that they have. They have gone after the Resilient Nevada Fund. So there's two pots of money that have come from these types of litigation. There's the Resilient Nevada funds, and those funds are being held at the state, and people can apply to the state to receive those funds. Those are the funds that China Spring has gotten so far. And there are One Nevada funds, which are given directly to the counties for the counties to use to support programs that the counties have identified are needed within their community. We have used One Nevada dollars for several things, not just to fund our community providers. We have one employee, Sarah Johnson. She's here. She oversees the opioid settlement funds. But we've also partnered with juvenile probation to purchase a body scanner that they needed for their detention facility. We've partnered with the sheriff's department to purchase I'm probably not going to get the name right. They're like fentanyl destroyer machines. So when you put the drugs in, they destroy them so that they can't harm people. So we have partnered within the county too to help buy supplies and equipment that people need to also help mitigate opioid use. So.
Right. And I realize China Spring and Aurora, what is it called? Aurora, just Aurora.
Aurora
Okay.
Pines.
Aurora Pines, okay. And I've been out there, and it's a great program. And these kids, in a lot of cases, that's the reason that they're out there and have run into problems with the law is because of misuse or use of drugs, harmful drugs. So I'm wondering, in all 16 counties, northern outside of Clark County, send students or individuals to or both of those facilities. So maybe that's something that the other counties, I guess I need to reach out to those other counties and see whether or not there's methods of them using those funds that can be directed back into that facility. So thank you. I wasn't sure whether they could or not. So you've answered that question. Thank you. So great program, and we appreciate you bringing this forward. Yeah.
I agree. This is really wonderful that we can provide these resources to our community, and we have so many willing, excellent groups to be able to do that. I know that we want to hear we want all the groups to have an opportunity to say whatever, but maybe public comment is adequate. Did you give any thought to inviting the groups to say anything to us?
Brooke 80 Community Services Director. I am good with whatever direction that you feel appropriate. There are several of them that are here, and I'm sure they would like to have some input.
Does any of you need more than 3 minutes? Okay, then let's open this to public comment, and we really would invite any of the representatives from these groups to come share thoughts. Yes, Daria, welcome. Oh, wait, look at that skirt.
Thank you. Daria Singer for the record. I'm the Executive Director of Partnership Douglas County, and we did receive funds for the last year. So I wanted to provide you guys an update with what we did with our funds for the previous year. For our ACEs program, which is the Adverse Childhood Experience Training, we reached 38 adults, and that was primarily at our schools. So for the next year, we're looking at other community organizations we can provide that training to. For our prevention specialist, she started in November, but she was delivering several programs under this funding prior to being a full-time school district employee. We did 2 different programs. We did Catch My Breath, which is a vaping-specific curriculum, and we had 68 students from Douglas High and CVMS go through that program, or Carson Valley Middle School. We did Too Good for Drugs, which is our other evidence-based curriculum that focuses on pro-social bonding, community outreach, education, on harms of substances, mental health, mental wellness. And we reached 830 students from Douglas High, Carson Valley Middle School, and Powaloo. And then our third program we did is called Third Millennium, which is our intervention-based program that we piloted at juvenile probation and also expanded to Aspire High School these last couple months. And we've reached 84 youth to date with that program. So we're really excited in the next year, if we can continue these programs. We have plans to begin work at Whitell High School as well, so we can make sure we can include our lake schools. And then Partnership Douglas County will continue to serve our middle schools. And on the comment about opioids, we do track all of that at Partnership. We do a lot of that research. And in Douglas County, we've had a 58% decrease in overdoses related to opioids. So it's a huge thing that we've seen. There's been a lot of naloxone going out, so we also think that's a huge component of it. And then when we look at our youth substance use trends, we are seeing our high school students are beginning to trend down. So from the 21 to 23 data, we are seeing a decrease in our high school students using substances, but our middle school students are going up. So that's why Partnership Douglas County has placed a large emphasis on serving our middle school students so we can continue to work with them and serve. And at the next Board of Health meeting, I will be presenting on our comprehensive community prevention plan, which covers all of this data and more on a variety of different substances, but opioids as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Can I address that real quickly?
We have,
I know we're in public comment, but Daria, I just wanted to say thank you for your efforts because I know you can't, I know I'm interrupting public comment. Never mind, sorry.
there will be a space to do that.
There will be a time, okay, yes.
Debbie Posnian
Before we go
welcome.
into action, yeah, okay, sorry.
Good morning and Merry Christmas. Thank you to the chairman and county commissioners for letting us be a part of this grant opportunity. We really appreciate any support that we get from the county because we do work in the county. So Michelle Simpson, who is our coordinator for this grant, I asked her to make a little report of what we've done in 2025. I see those reports monthly, but when she put this report in front of me this morning, I was like, wow. We want to pat ourselves on the back because we are really involved in the community. In the year 2025, we have supported education, outreach, connection to care activities throughout Douglas County. SPN completed more than 110 activities during the contract period. Through the direct services, SPN served 87 unduplicated individuals, primarily through the maturing men's group and women-to-women support groups. In addition to direct services, SPN reached approximately 1,500 community members through presentations, outreach events, and educational engagements. Also, SPN provided non-suicidal self-injury education and offered continuing education credits for community health workers and counselors. These efforts were centered on increasing awareness, reducing stigma, and connecting residents to behavioral health and opioid-related resources. Overall, One Nevada funding allowed SPN to be a consistent community presence in our neighborhoods. We talked a little bit about how we're tracking drug use and suicide. And I remember speaking to Jody and Sarah a year ago and said, does suicide prevention and this contract go hand in hand? We do believe it does, but how can we make that difference? And we have realized that in the work that we do in the jail, every other week, we are finding that most of those inmates are there because of their drug use. We are there talking to them about their mental health, because that's where it all begins. As you know, suicide prevention does direct services. We are not a crisis call center or a crisis walk-in center, although we are able to work with those people that are struggling. And I can tell you, 89% of those people that have either lost a loved one to suicide or themselves are struggling, it's because of their drug substance abuse. So it does go definitely hand in hand. We would not be able to do what we do without this One Nevada grant. And I thank Michelle Simpson for her work. Makes me almost emotional, right? Because we are out there and we're out there in the streets and we are making a difference. So again, thank you so very much.
Thank you very much for that report.
Jim Jackson. This program sounds like a very good program. And I wish that my grandson lived here in Douglas County. He's back in Columbus, Ohio, and he could benefit tremendously from this. It is a very high financial burden for the problems that he has and that my son is going through with his son. So I do think that this is a good program. The one thing that I think that the county could do, and you commissioners in particular, is when an expense like this comes up, the first thing that the people see is that you're spending a tremendous amount of money on something, and where does that come from? They immediately think it's coming out of our tax funds and everything. So then there's criticisms on it, whether they think the program's good or bad. But the example here is that is offset by this lawsuit where you are now getting money that is replacing it. I think that needs to be made clear to the individuals in the county, because it's not only on this program, but it is other programs that you also spend money on that you're recuperating that money from some other fund than just the general fund and the taxes that we're paying here. And I think that creates a lot of problems when people, and like you said, people don't show up for your budget meetings. You know, a few of us do every once in a while, the diehards, but we can't spread the word to everybody. And I think that there's some mechanism that if that could be developed that says, yes, we're spending this money, but here's where it's actually coming from. It would take some of the pressure off of you folks when you do have to increase our taxes for something that we may not want. But I think the program's a very good program, and I wish it was my grandson was out here to take advantage of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
James McCallum. I was here at the meeting when the commission voted to get involved in this lawsuit. And I made public comment about experience I had, and I want to repeat it. I was in the hospital. I was first moved here, and I had a gallbladder infection, and I went to the hospital, and I was in the hospital, and the only pain I had was a headache. I was given opioids. The headache got worse, probably because of the opioids. I was given more opioids. Came a point I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what was going on. I knew enough, luckily, to refuse treatment until my head cleared and I could actually make a reasonable decision on my care. How many times does somebody get a surgery and they're given enough oxycodone to last a year if they didn't abuse it? Then they keep it around the house and they don't use the services like the sheriff's department and other services where you can take drugs that you don't need. So a lot of households, there's literally oxycodones just sitting around in the medicine cabinet. The opioid crisis is one of the biggest problems we have in this country. If we could solve it, I think we'd get rid of at least half the homeless. It's a serious problem, and I'm really proud of the efforts being made in Douglas County with the money from this lawsuit to battle it. I don't think you should ever stop. It's never going to not be important. It's a worldwide crisis. Particularly, it's a crisis everywhere. It's not a crisis just for poor people or teenagers that are partying or whatever. It can be a crisis for somebody just getting out of the hospital after back surgery and not being able to stop using it. So appreciate the effort for all of you, and I appreciate the effort from the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCullough. Welcome.
Hi, good morning. For the record, my name is Colleen Lawrence. I'm the founder and owner of Moxie Up. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you. Thank you for providing Moxie Up the opportunity to apply for the One Nevada grant. Since some of you may not have heard what Moxie Up, the Brainiacs program is, I wanted to give you just a quick, brief understanding. The Brainiac Social Skills Group utilizes a blended evidence-based approach to reduce risk factors associated with substance use, including opioids. The program incorporates solution-focused brief therapy to build strengths, goal-directed decision-making, and adaptive problem-solving. Theory of mind to improve perspective taking, empathy and resistance to negative peer influence, and affect recognition to strengthen emotional awareness and regulation. So that's a three-pronged approach, which is all evidence-based models. Together, these practices directly address key behavior drivers linked to opioid risk, impulsivity, emotional dysregulation, and peer vulnerability by providing protective skills early and supporting prevention before youth escalate to substance use or crisis. And is provided by a clinical child psychologist. The Behavioral Health Incubator is a new model. We're really excited about this. We're doing it in 2 different counties. It's a unique model aligned with Douglas County's strategic vision by strengthening workforce development, improving access to behavioral health professionals as part of a comprehensive opioid prevention strategy. The incubator provides a structured 1-2-3 approach. 1, providing affordable clinical space for clinical behavioral health professionals. It's so affordable, it's free. To grow their individual practices locally. 2, offering access to ongoing clinical support through Nevada PALS Child and Adolescent Psychiatry Program. If you don't know what Nevada PAL is, it's a pediatric access line through UNLV's Kirk Kerkorian School of Psychiatric Access. So it's getting direct competency training through our university system. And 3, delivering training and a healthcare administrative support to promote sustainable community-based practice operations. By increasing local access to prevention, assessment, and early intervention services, the incubator helps reduce reliance on crisis care and support, long-term reductions in opioid-related risk across Douglas County. We're hoping to grow behavioral health providers in an incubator setting where they get free space, free clinical training, and free healthcare administration programs.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ms. Lawrence. You're good. Any other public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Before we have discussion, are there any disclosures on this item?
I think you're directing that at me. Yes, I'd like to disclose that I sit on the advisory board for Partnership Douglas County. So either I will abstain from this vote, or if we break that one out and vote separately, it's up to you, Madam Chair. But I can easily just abstain from the vote.
Thank you. I would like to break it out and have a motion separately for partnership so you can vote on all the others. All right. Is there any discussion? I know that Commissioner Gardner wanted to respond.
Well, not necessarily respond. I just wanted to highlight really 2 programs, especially that are offered by Partnership Douglas County. Fortunately, I do a quarterly town hall meeting in Topaz Ranch Estates, and one of the sessions we had, I believe, just a few months ago, we had Ms. Singer come down and participate in that. She did naloxone material available to the community and training also. And also packets, it's called DETERRA, not DoTerra, but DETERRA, okay, DETERRA, a company that is creating these packets that you can take old drugs, non-drugs that you're not using anymore, and you put them in the package and you shake up the package and it destroys the activity of that, okay? And I think it's important for our community, hopefully there's a lot of people online also, to understand you can get these materials from Partnership Douglas County, okay? So I just wanted to give you a shout out for that. Thank you for that activity. important for our community, and we have those available. And there's no charge for this, by the way, no charge whatsoever. So if you have drugs sitting around the house, as I think Commissioner Tolbert indicated, or maybe it was Commissioner Rice indicated, we have drugs that are sitting around and not being used anymore, or maybe it was Mr. McCallum in his public comment mentioned it. I think so. If you have drugs sitting around the house, this is a method of getting rid of them, making them inactive. Okay, and so that's very important. So, anyways, thank you very much for that activity.
I think the sheriff also does a drug. He'll take whatever drugs are unused and, Miss Adie.
Brooke 80 Community Services Director. Yeah, he has a box set up at the Sheriff's Department. So anytime anybody could go and dispose of their medications. And then Partnership Douglas County does do some drug roundups, I think twice a year. And so they'll host bigger events, but there is a box always available at the Sheriff's Department.
Very good. Thank you.
And that's one of the things I wanted to point out. For those that live at the lake, just go into the front door of the sheriff's office there at the lake, and here's this nice big box sitting there saying, "Feed me." And trust me, I don't want to go into what my medical condition has been recently, but I've got all kinds of stuff that I'm getting rid of, and I'm thankful that they're there. Thank you.
And I believe we highlighted this morning at the Kiwanis meeting, 940 pounds. 941 pounds of medication destroyed in the tube take back, if that didn't get onto the record.
Thank you for pointing that out. I would like to mention that the agenda items are called titles, the write-up on the agenda. And this one does note that all of this funding comes from previously received opioid settlement funds. So it is in the agenda, and I do appreciate the reminder to point out that this is not general fund money. So thank you for that, Mr. Jackson. Are there other comments? Commissioner Gardner.
I'm going to try to split this out then as requested. I move for the approval of a grant payment from Douglas County to Partnership Douglas County to provide services related to opioid prevention, treatment, recovery using previously received opioid settlement funds as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Gardner, seconded by Commissioner Rice, that we approve the amount noted for Partnership Douglas County. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right. I don't know. Abstain. So we have 4 in favor and 1 abstention. Commissioner Gardner.
Okay, now I'll do the rest of them. Okay, I move the approval of grant payments from Douglas County to the Family Support Council, Carson Valley Health, Moxie Up, Carson City Community Counseling Center, and Suicide Prevention Network to provide services related to opioid prevention, treatment, recovery using previously received opioid settlement funds, and authorize Community Service Director to sign the grant funding agreements for each of those individual organizations as presented.
I will second.
Been moved by Commissioner Gardner, seconded by Commissioner Tolbert, that we approve the other agencies listed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Adie, and heartfelt thanks to all of you who are doing the important work. Thank you very much. We will take a 5-minute break, and then I expect we'll take agenda items 10 and 11 before we have lunch, and then we'll break for lunch before agenda item 11.2. Okay, back at 11:20. We're ready to reconvene. We'll start with agenda item 10 for possible action discussion to adopt revisions to Douglas County Administrative Policy and Procedures 200.27 outside work employment. Christine Vito, Human Resources Director. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the Commission, I apologize, I'm a little under the weather today. The proposed revisions to the outside employment policy update and clarify the county's expectations by expanding the definition of outside work to include traditional employment as well as services performed through the employee's own business or self-employment arrangement. The updates clarify documentation and approval requirements, reinforce the responsibility of appointing authorities to review requests for operational impacts and potential conflicts of interest, and establish clear evaluation criteria such as vendor relationships, employee performance, and attendance history, and any real or perceived ethical concerns. The revisions also reaffirm prohibitions on the use of county time, resources, equipment, or confidential information for outside work, and establish expectations for ongoing review of previously approved arrangements. These changes strengthen transparency, protect our organizational integrity, and align with the ethical standards and conflict of interest requirements set forth in Nevada Ethics Law NRS 281A. And that is all I have, if you have any questions.
Thank you. I read through the changes. I think they're very good. Do we have any board questions? Commissioner Gardner.
Great, and it's good that we're updating this. Are you actually distributing this policy to all employees so that they are getting it in there so they know what it is? Sometimes we publish things, but we don't necessarily communicate to our employees. So,
thank you for the question, Commissioner Gardner. You bring up a very good point, and I made the same acknowledgement to my staff. And yes, I do plan on sending out a communication notifying employees of this changed policy.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question. I just wanted a statement that this is something that in the past I considered taking on a position with this and maintaining my job at the same time. And this is very clear, very easy to understand because that was part of the conflict back in the day. So yeah, I appreciate you guys doing this, and I like it. It's very clean, very clear, very easy to understand. So thank you.
Is there any public comment on this matter? Seeing none, I will look to the board for a motion.
There we go.
Commissioner Tolbert.
Madam Chair, I recommend that we adopt revisions to Douglas County Administrative Policy and Procedures 200.27 outside work employment as presented.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Rice that we approve these changes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Agenda item 11.1 for possible action, discussion on the adoption of ordinance 2025-1656, revising Title 20 of the Douglas County Code by repealing and replacing 1, Chapter 20.800, 2, Appendix B, Uniform Code Revisions, 3, Appendix B1, East Fork Fire Protection District Amendments to the International Fire Code, commonly called IFC, and International Wildland Urban Interface Code, commonly called WUI. And 4, Appendix B2, Tahoe Douglas Fire Protection District Amendments to the IFC and WUI codes. This is a second reading. We have with us Tim Davis, our building official, Tom Delaire, our community development director, and another gentleman, I'm happy you're here.
Jeremy Davidson.
Jeremy Davidson, thank you. We'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Chairwoman Hales. This is Tom Delaire, Community Development Director for the record. Jeremy is our is it senior plan reviewer now? I don't know. It's not yet. We're working on it. Yeah, plan reviewer. He's our one one in-house plan reviewer. We have Tim also, our building official. He does do plan reviews as well, and then of course our inspectors. But these amendments are about a code update and change, and I will turn it over to Tim. He's got a PowerPoint that we'll be going through, and please ask questions as we go along.
Tim Davis for the record. Thank you for the opportunity. We prepared a slide presentation for you today to kind of list the codes that we would like you to adopt, the amendments, the B1, B2, and B, Appendix B, 2800 Douglas County Code. So we're going to present the slide to you, and I will introduce Jeremy when it comes his turn to talk about some major changes to the codes. So to kind of start the whole process off, this began in February of 2025. The International Code Council started releasing the 2024 code books, and they didn't all come out at once. So this entire process has been ongoing for the better part of this year. The last book was released, I believe, in September. And so as a steering committee and subcommittees have been meeting on and off for the previous, like I said, 2025 season. This slide here represents the international codes that we're asking you to adopt. As you can see, there's quite a few of them. I won't go through each and every one. I will highlight the fact that the ones listed in red are new. These are new codes. The International Code Council elected to pull the swimming pool and spa code out of the residential and building codes and give it its own code book. And so now we get to purchase that book as well and enforce it from there. And the additional one on the bottom is the 2017 Standards for Accessible and Usable Buildings and Facilities. So this helps us navigate our ADA challenges. And so we'll be asking you to adopt those codes today. This is going to be a little bit of an overview of how we got here and how we came to put these amendments together for you. Every year or every 3 years, the International Code Council presents. Every 3 years, they present a new code cycle. Fortunately for us, the Northern Nevada jurisdictions adopt new codes every 6 years. And this is done for multiple reasons. Probably the most important would be the first item here, which is consistency for our developers, design professionals, and contractors who conduct construction activities in multiple jurisdictions. The next one would be obviously cost to our constituents, having to replace upwards of 13 different code books every 3 years is really not a cost benefit. That there are not that many changes in a 3-year code cycle. Another factor would be materials may change from code cycle to code cycle, and purchased inventory may be lost. This happens quite regularly. And so the last item here just kind of is a capture. If there is something, whether life safety, building safety, or fire safety that is critical in that 3-year cycle, we could amend it at the local level and bring it into the existing code. Slide. Okay, how does the Northern Nevada amendments work, Appendix B, B1, and B2? All of the Northern Nevada participating jurisdictions gather to establish steering committees and subcommittees. The subcommittee is challenged to review these new codes for possible amendment. Once they determine that they're going to bring something forward, they submit it to the the steering committee. Steering committee is made up of building officials and city managers and sometimes community development managers, sorry. Once the subcommittee submits these changes, the steering committee will review and either approve or deny. If it's approved, this becomes a Northern Nevada amendment. That's happening at the regional level. So we have national codes, regional codes, and then the B1, B2, and the B, B1, and B2 represent our local codes. Douglas County Building, with the help of Jeremy Davidson, our senior building inspector, Nick Nadler, who's in attendance as well, our fire our fire prevention team is behind me as well. Thank you for being here. We get together and we collaborate and we decide what codes need to be further amended to help our jurisdiction here, our constituents in Douglas County. And so anything that we amend to the national or Northern Nevada amendments would become Appendix B. Appendix B1 and B2 are amendments to the International Fire Code and the International Wildland Urban Interface Code. And that is done by East Fork Fire, Tahoe Douglas Fire, as directed by the State Fire Marshal. I'm going to introduce you to Jeremy Davidson. He's our plans examiner. He's a pivotal part in this whole program, and so he's going to outline some of the major changes.
Did you want to talk on this slide first? So yeah, I'm just going to kind of give you guys brief points of the overview. I'm not going to go into like every code, every section of each book. So the key things is for the updates is to strengthen life safety and fire protection. One of the things to point out there is carbon monoxides are required in many occupancies for fire safety for energy storage systems in residential garages. Approved accessibility compliance. The bathrooms in commercial buildings used to be 60 inches. It's now increased to 66 inches. This is mostly because of the wheelchair requirements and accessibility that way. Another thing that expanded quite a bit was the energy efficiency and electrification pathways. So you're seeing a 7% energy savings in residential buildings and 10% in commercial buildings. And then another portion of the code talks about greatly is clear administrative and enforcement languages that's given to the local AHJs, the authorities within. Next slide. So we're going to start with the first code book is the IBC. That's the International Building Code book, and then that's primarily focuses on commercial aspects of code. And this is these are just some of the bullet points that have changed. So we got adult changing stations now are required in new commercial buildings. There's been some changes to the baby changing tables requirements. And as you can see, the abbreviations kind of are where those kind of changes take place. So the first one was a code change in the International Building Code book itself. The baby changing table is a Northern Nevada amendment. The next change was the ground snow loads, and we'll go into that a little bit farther in the next load when we get into the residential. But it also affects the International Building Code. And then one of the major changes in the IBC is rockery retaining walls. So this is a Northern Nevada amendment, and the reason for this amendment was because they're seeing a lot of failures on these rockery walls that kind of like line driveways, or people carve out like a hillside portion of their backyard to have a rear yard. So now that it used to be 4 feet and higher would require engineering. Now it's going to be 2 feet or taller for walls to be engineered. And then at 3 feet, it's going to trigger a special inspection, which is done by a third party. And then no wall shall exceed 6 feet in height. In the IRC, the couple major changes that we saw in there was this ground snow load table it's kind of expanded greatly in its appearance. And then what had happened was they kind of took the risk categories and expanded on that. So before it was like every project was kind of had the same kind of risk factor in a sense. Now they've kind of like broken it down. So a risk 1 is kind of like your agricultural buildings, sheds and stuff like that have less risk for public, endangerment. And then 2 is like your residential projects, and then up above is commercial and projects where there would be a greater risk of more people getting hurt if a building had a failure. And then the next item is the Appendix BB, and it's covering tiny houses. And the reason why I kind of just want to point this out, it was in the code before, it was in the Appendix Q, it's now moved to Appendix BB. But with the state pushing for a lot more encouragement in tiny homes being allowed within the states, they've expanded kind of some of the definitions and terms and abilities to perform these tiny homes. So I just want to point that out there. We're going to see a lot of the changes in the International Energy Code, the IECC. Commercial provision, that's going to be a major change, is they're going to now require on commercial buildings air curtains. So these are those fans that when you go through a door blow on you as you walk in and out of a building. I just kind of wanted to give you guys a general description of what that is. That's going to be a new requirement. In the residential provisions, the building thermal envelopes are going to be changing. So we're changing from, we're currently in a climate zone B or 5B. We're going to change to a 4B. And this is beneficial to the county because in the new table, the requirements in a 5B are extremely greater. So with us going with the 4B, it kind of keeps it almost similar to the climate requirements that we have currently. Here's a table of that chart that's changed. I've highlighted the areas that have changed. The one change that we're going to see, and this chart is specifically used for a prescriptive basis. So if you aren't using a simulated, they call it a simulated performance report. So where you can do trade-offs to like increase your performance of your energy in one section of the house versus another. So if this chart just represents if you were not going to use any of the trade-offs or do a simulated performance, that these would be the values you have. So I know that the major change is going to be in the walls with 30, but there is alternative trade-offs in ways that you can decrease that back down possibly with trade-offs in other areas of your home. And then the last change I'll be going over is the National Electrical Code. And I just wanted to point this one out because it's kind of a standard thing in residential is before you were required to have a receptacle in your kitchen islands. And now that requirement has gone away. And it's now just an optional option. That's it.
Thank you for that. Are there questions from the board? Go ahead, Commissioner Rice.
Mr. Dallaire, I know that you were around when we went through this 6 years ago, and we had people who were halfway through building their brand new house, and everything changed. And now you have to sprinkle. Now you had to do all sorts of things, which added, $20,000, $30,000 to the price of building the home that was already halfway done. Are we going to be in that conundrum again with this, or is this? It appears to me like there has been some voice of reason, and that things have been eased just a tad. I know that for ADA, things have increased, which is having an ADA grandchild. I can understand that. But we're not going to get into the same situation that we were in 6 years ago when things changed so drastically that people were going bankrupt.
Commissioner Rice, thanks for the question. Tim Davis. Yeah, you could imagine it'd be really difficult to go January 4th to January 5th from the 2018 codes to the 2024 code. Immediately, it's really difficult. We have a couple ways to navigate that. Right now, currently, you can apply for an application and defer your submittal, which would be a placeholder for you. And so once your documents were then uploaded into the system, it would be routed for review under the current code. As you can imagine, homeowners, design professionals, in the middle of a project spend a lot of money on document preparation, and it's really difficult to ask them to go back to a design professional and redraw it in a new code. And so we do have some provisions. We're going to have to grandfather some projects in, and we do that every code cycle change, and we intend to do that this one as well.
Thank you for that.
I'd just like to add a couple of things. There's in this code update that ICC has done, there's quite a few changes. When you look at the table for that snow load, we went from a 30-pound snow load to a 43 for a residential home. It's an ultimate load snow. There's a lot more factors. We have thermal factors, exposure factors, roof slope factors. There's what kind of insulation are you using? Is the attic vented or not vented? Plus all the WUI requirements that we have. It determines what kinds of vents you're going to use and if your house is actually vented. And now they have that spray foam options where you can insulate the entire outside perimeter of the home, and those are performing better than the homes historically. So realistically, you're not going to get the heat and thermal transfers through the roof, so the snow is going to stick on there longer period of time, which increases the snow load on the home. And so there's a lot of factors involved in the new calculations, and ASCE 17, it's 717, so it was developed in 2017, and that is now updated to a 2022 version that was developed, and the calculations for the snow loads have changed. The winds are changing. Chapter 5, which is part of the flood proofing requirements, has changed substantially, and the federal government just issued, not the federal government, but the ASCE organization just issued a supplemental to that Chapter 5 within, I think it was like in September also. And the flood proofing requirements on there now is developing loads for water on homes if it is built in the floodplain up to 1,000. Not on home, but on buildings and structures in your categories 1, 2, 3, and 4 that you saw earlier on the snow load table, but up to 1,000-year flood. And we don't have maps for those kinds of floodplains, so there's calculations involved on calculating how deep that water is going to be and how deep your floodproofing is. So the backbone of the code has changed substantially too in the way they calculate these things. So that's a huge modification for these engineers and changing those applications that are coming in. So we're trying to give them time to adjust to that. We've put notice back in July on the website stating that we were planning on doing this in January. Northern Nevada is going to it in January. Reno, Sparks, Washoe, Carson City, and Fernley, Fallon, so Churchill County and Douglas County all were going at it at the same time. And so I think even Elko is now on this list as well. And so we're trying to just follow the pattern in Northern Nevada so that it makes it consistent across all jurisdictions.
Thank you.
Commissioner Tarkanian, do you have questions or comments?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Tolbert?
So I have a couple. I guess one of them was with the snow loads. And is the valley going to change in that? I know when we get up to the higher elevations, the snow load's required to be factored with the snow load at the roof, which really greatly affects our seismic. So is that staying the way it is now? As in, we won't have to apply that snow load on the roof in the valley and only when we get up in elevation? Because that's a considerable cost potential in the design of a structure. So has that been considered as part of this cost benefit of the adoption of this code? And then my second one is the retaining walls. Requiring design at 2 feet could be a considerable cost of design adding on to the cost of these walls, which are super expensive anyway. But we have Canyon Creek and Eagle Ridge that basically only allow rockery walls in their areas. So there's going to be a big impact on those areas specifically. So having a design at 2 feet, I mean, I recognize the need, but I also am wondering if that kind of estimate has been done in order to adopt that provision. Yeah, I actually served on the structural subcommittee with for the Northern Nevada amendments with a lot of the other, we had structural engineers on there on that panel, and a lot of communities actually across Northern Nevada. Washoe County, Sparks, and Reno have a lot of tall, really tall rockery walls. The tallest one I know of is out in Douglas County, is the one out here in Genoa. I think that was a Brandon Hill project where they have like a 7 or 8 foot tall rockery wall that was put in. The ground there was quite a bit different than what they have in Reno, and it wasn't put up against fill. But Reno, Sparks, Washoe have had a significant problem with these walls failing. And we had a lot of conversations about the costs associated with this. And it's just the rockery wall. So if you put a concrete wall in, it's still a 4 foot requirement for you to go engineering above that. But for a rockery wall, it's going to require somebody that knows what they're doing in order to design it. So Keystone is it's the 4 foot or higher. It's normal like a concrete wall because it's got actually some reinforcing on it, whereas rockery walls usually don't. There are some that do, but
depends on the design and what it's actually holding up. And then as far as the snow loads go, we reversed engineered all of those snow loads in the subcommittee. We had some structural engineers that had a spreadsheet that they had developed for those calculations. I tried to recreate it, had some difficult time trying to figure out these thermal loads, this thermal factor. And I need to review that a little more. I'm not sure. I think the seismic revisions, the requirements have changed as well for that. So I'm not sure what the magic number is now as far as the snow load requirement when you need to actually use your portion of your snow load in the seismic calculation, which is what we were running into before. Have you guys heard one way or the other? Yeah, I haven't heard yet on where that magic number is. Right now we have a minimum. There's a footnote in that table that shows a minimum of 29 pounds per square foot is being used for Douglas County now.
Thank you. I'll jump in. I have a couple questions and a comment. I'll start with the comment. Changing the bathroom size. I have a little experience with that because I have a sister 4 years younger who's been in a chair for 40 years. And over the course, there have been times when I've had to stand outside a public restroom and not let anyone in because she could use a restroom, but no stall door would close while she was in there. There have been other times when there are public restrooms she can't use. More than once, she's gotten stuck because she thinks she can use a restroom, but then when her wheelchair's in there, it gets wedged and she can't get out. So I'm really appreciative of expanding from 60 to 66. So to all the folks who worked on that, I think that's great. Perhaps incongruously or contradicting that thought, I'm wondering about adult changing tables. I don't know how frequently they would be used. And as I think about it, it seems like it could be expensive and would require a lot of space. Expensive because it would require some space. And I wondered if maybe I'm missing anything on that.
Madam Chair, thank you for the question. I think what the intent is, it's only going to be in special uses that require different types of restroom facilities.
Like medical buildings and whatnot.
Correct. It's
Okay.
not in all building uses.
Okay, that's good. My second question is broader and more concerning, and I'm happy with these changes. I appreciate you explaining the process, and I appreciate the process. My big concern is with the maps and the designation of the maps, because I've received a lot of comment from the public that the maps that are being used, not embedded into the changes, but linked through the changes, are not accurate of the fire risk specifically in Douglas County. And that causes two big concerns. One is that building will take a lot more money, and the other is that fire insurance will cost more, or in some cases might not even be available if the risks are increased through the maps. And I know you guys don't do the maps, so I don't even know if you want to address my concerns, but I'll give you the opportunity to address those concerns.
So yeah, you're referencing the WUI fire maps is what I think you're referencing when you say maps. You're the wildland.
Well, I don't know if they're WUI, but I think they're the maps that the fire department, fire board approved.
Yeah, and so in general, we want to say like the fire district adopts and controls the fire code. Us as the building division, we don't really come up with the approval or the regulations when it comes to fire of that nature. Like they're their own entity and they're the ones that enforce it. And I hear in presence in the attendance, and they could probably speak on it a little bit better of how they came up with it. But my understanding is they use a third-party mapping system that has determined these risk categories of, their classifications. So they're the ones that they use the third-party map to come up with that classification. But the fire departments are the ones that have the ultimate control on adopting and enforcing the fire code to that degree. And Tim can expand possibly.
Yeah, if I may, we do have an MOU with the fire districts to do their plan review for the WUI review. It is up to the fire districts, however, to assign the risk category, and that's in an agreement. And I will say that, you know, it's a third-party map that is really out of the control of East Fork Fire District and Tahoe Douglas Fire District. I believe it's issued by the Bureau of Agricultural. Okay. Well, our fire prevention team's here. If they'd like to speak to it further, we'd love to welcome up to the microphone. And they can tell you how that map is generated. But once they designate that IR1, IR2, or IR3 condition, and then it's up to us to review in accordance to that. The map is, you know, it's obviously just changed and it's being challenged, and that's fine. You know, we got to have transparency here, and I believe that's what we're looking for. And so, yeah, I would invite them up if they'd like to, but that's a map that they adopt in their regulation.
Thank you for that explanation. And I really do appreciate all your work on this. It's good work. Are there any other questions? Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you. And so I don't want my comments to be taken as shooting the messenger. I hope that's clear up front. Okay. I'm always looking at and try to anticipate, which is extremely difficult. I'm not a professional in this area, but the unintended consequences that occur every time we do a change in this. Has there been any cost analysis of what these changes will do on a cost per square foot increase? I would imagine there's going to be an increase in building. Has there been a cost analysis done on that?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Gardner. There's a national average that is posted that you can research. It's generally a 1 to 2% increase in overall cost to construction, whether you use IR1 or IR2. So if you do the math on a 500,000 square foot cost to build, you're adding either $5,000 to $10,000 in additional construction costs. Now, there's so many variables that you can get into that would, you know, impact that cost or that number. But the number one thing that I think you also have to consider is if you put those kind of components into your home, that homeowner is going to be able to reap the benefits of potentially less payment on their fire insurance because their house is built better to withstand a fire in case they have to fight a fire.
Sure, I appreciate that. But every time we do this, we have constant pressure. This board has constant pressure from the public in regards to affordability of housing. And of course, a builder that does that doesn't absorb those costs. They pass them along to the home buyer, you know. So it just my concerns are it's putting houses, again, every time we do this, we're adding regulations that put houses out of the capacity of our residents to purchase houses. And so that's certainly a huge concern of mine. Previously, when 4 or 5 years ago, when I talked to Chief Carlini at the time about the WUI, it was my understanding that we are not required to adopt all of the WUI standards. We can cherry pick what we want to as a county. Now, I understand that you're not responsible for that, the East Fork Fire is, but when you have a map that includes basically the ranchos, that concerns me. And I haven't seen really any maps yet. And so I'd like to see the maps before we go forward with this. Has anybody else seen maps? Maybe I'm missing something. So huh? They're linked. Why can't they be part of it? So
the map is a GIS viewer.
Okay.
Chairman Gardner, this is Tom Dyer.
And so I question whether or not we really want to take adopt this until we are able to communicate with East Fork Fire and whether or not those maps are appropriate for our community. So anyways.
Chairwoman Hales, may I chime in for 1 second?
Commissioner Tarkanian.
One of the few times, no, I'm just joking, we do all the time. But I agree completely with Commissioner Gardner on this. There are a lot of really well-intended regulations that have unintended consequences that affect the affordability of homes for people who can't afford them. And I think this needs to be looked at very closely.
Thank you. If there are no more questions for this team, I will invite the fire department representatives to address our concerns. Okay. You folks from the fire department, would you like to address these concerns? Ms. Ray.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. Amy Ray, East Fork Fire Protection District. I'm the fire marshal and a deputy fire chief. One of the things to first understand is that the Wildland Urban Interface Code is adopted by the State Fire Marshal's Office under NAC 477 as part of state law. So we are also required to adopt and enforce that document because we have an interlocal agreement to act on their behalf. What goes into that is that there's a provision in the Wildland Urban Interface Code where you look at properties ratings based on moderate, high, and extra high. The requirement is that there has to be a third-party map that is accessible to the public that shows what those determinations are. So we have chosen the Department of Natural Resources, their map, as our third-party map that is viewable by any member of the public, and that determines what the risk is for that property. We do have alternatives if someone wishes to challenge the risk that is stated on the map. We do have that ability for them to do that, and in some cases, it will relieve the risk from a moderate to a low. Not in all cases, but there is that opportunity should someone request it. But we do not have a choice in adoption of the maps, and we do not determine what the maps say or how they were made.
I have a number of questions. You said moderate, high, and extra high. Are there no low-risk areas on the maps?
There are low-risk areas on the maps, but low-risk areas are not addressed in the Wildland Urban Interface Code for provisions under defensible space and methods of construction.
In other words, the WUI says there are, but our whole county's not in WUI, is it?
Yes, it is.
So are you saying that there is no place in our county that has low risk for fire?
There are areas that do have low risk, and the map does state that, but there is no requirements in the Wildland Urban Interface Code for a property that is deemed low. They don't have provisions, they don't have requirements, and they would not have to be built under any provisions for a low risk area.
And I guess my next question is, did I understand you to say you have no choice but to adopt these particular maps?
We have to adopt a third-party map that is available to the public for public viewing. And because it's a third-party map that was developed by the outside of us and is posted on the Natural Resources website, that's the map that we've chosen to use. We have used this map successfully for several years. However, the map has changed and been updated, which at one point in time in the development community, the regulations and the determination of the map was challenged as being inaccurate. And now that the maps have changed and been updated to 2024, we are again being challenged as to the accuracy. However, we didn't develop the maps, and we had no participation in how they were developed.
So there are other maps you could have chosen to use?
I'm not aware of any, no. These maps are developed across the United States by the USDA.
But theoretically, you just can use any third-party map. You could hire someone to do a third-party map.
We can hire someone to do analysis of the entire county should we choose to, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Are there other questions?
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner
Let me see if I understand this correctly. We have this international group that's going to make a determination for the county of which areas are low risk, high risk, and medium risk, and we should adopt that instead of analyzing it ourselves for the people that work and live in this community?
That's the map that we have chosen to adopt.
Well, I understand you're using the word chosen. That's the word I'm trying to get. Is it, I think Chairwoman Hales asked, is it what we have to adopt? And if it's not what we have to adopt, why have you guys chosen to adopt it instead of doing something through people that live here and understand the community better than some national organization?
Because a national organization is a third party that's made up of people that are foresters and those that specifically work in these areas and do this for a living. As you can see, as the map is up, it's across the United States. It's not just specific to Nevada or Douglas County.
I think that's the problem. Is
Yeah,
the national
exactly.
group is building our local map. Go ahead, Commissioner Tarkanian.
No, I was going to say that's exactly the point. You take over it because you're in person, but that's exactly what I'm thinking.
And I have the same concerns. Do we actually have boots on the ground taking a look at these things, or are we doing just a 30,000 foot level identification of the maps? Because I would imagine, and my concerns are, if it's designated as a high risk, where it's really not a high risk, if you have boots on the ground and taking a look at it, then insurance companies going to look at that and base their insurance based on that risk. And it's going to be, once again, we're contributing to the unaffordability of homes in our community where it's really not necessarily required. So that's my concerns with these maps.
And Commissioner Gardner and I have residents that are in the more lower income communities. So this would be a big concern to both of our communities, mine and the Ranchos.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Ray? Okay, thank you very much.
Actually, I did have one.
Oh, yeah.
We keep saying that this could affect fire insurance or the ability to. Do you know how the insurance companies look at? Do they look at these fire severity maps, or I guess so? That's kind of the question. Is that a valid statement to say if we're using this and it's inaccurate, we could be putting somebody at risk of higher fees for their insurance or not being able to get that? Is that fair to say because of the maps?
Not to my knowledge, no. One of the things we did several years ago when we did the amendments and the adoption of the Wildland Urban Interface Code is we met with several insurance agencies and tried to see what we could do to help our residents. Would a sprinkler system make a difference? Would home hardening make a difference? Is there anything that would make a difference? Right now, insurance companies are not recognizing things based on that. However, one of the things that we are looking at happening and is happening in neighboring states is that areas that are deemed under different maps as to be in a certain area and building to that type of construction required in that area, insurance companies are going to come looking for that if they are building to that standard based on the risk that has been determined. And whether it's by this map or it's a map that the insurance companies choose to use, that's going to be up to them.
I'm confused by that answer. Was that a yes or a no?
I can't answer that question.
Okay.
I can't speak for the insurance industry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So I guess I'll just try to make sure we get everybody understanding. So, and then the alternate to this, so I have mine pulled up on Arrowhead Drive in the Ranchos. We want to stick that on there. And it shows, this is in the middle of the old Ranchos, right? Original section down there by Muir, by the elementary school. And it shows that it's a moderate severity there. So moderate severity, if you can't make, the clear space, it would be an IR2 classification, which would be e-venting and hardened of the siding. So a house, and those are, you might correct me if I'm wrong, Christian, but you're looking at $5,000 to $10,000 in or more in cost of going to the cement fiber siding in order to harden that exterior in the old Ranchos, which could be right next to a house that's T111, which is very flammable. So I guess so then we go in and do the Appendix C, which we might be able to get it down. So what if this map is, say, not accurate and we're still paying an extra $400 to get that reviewed, and I understand you goes out and verify it. So now it gets back down to the lower classification. That wouldn't apply to the rest of the neighborhood, right? So every time somebody would have to come in and have to do this on their own. Is that correct? Or is there any way to modify and make this thing live and become intelligent or something like that, where these neighborhoods could could be slowly conformed, kind of like the flood map is. You know, if somebody comes in and they make a change and say, oh, then they adjust it. So is there any ideas, thoughts, or future into that direction maybe?
One of the things that needs to happen is when we have new subdivisions come in, we need to evaluate those based on the Wildland Urban Interface Code. And if there are methods that we can take based on vegetation management plans and hardening and things like that so that we could reduce the risk that goes in there. However, since the Wildland Urban Interface Code wasn't adopted many years ago, we haven't been able to capture some of those old subdivisions. However, where there are areas that are considered subdivisions, which have municipal water and smaller lots and difficulties with defensible space, we will do the Appendix C evaluations to see if we can't assist residents or designers with that application to see if it won't give some relief.
I know that the county gets FEMA maps, but then we can ask for modifications and we can hire experts to get certain areas changed under the FEMA maps. Has the fire department considered doing that?
One of the things that happened when Chief Ernst got here was he went to the Division of Forestry and visited with them about updating the maps because the maps were greater than 10 years old. One of the things they said was, we have no control over that. And then all of a sudden we are here on a Thursday and we are using one set of maps, and we come back on a Friday and they've got a new set of maps up and we have no access to the previous maps. So that's kind of where we're at.
So you haven't considered hiring experts to work with these folks to make modifications to their maps?
We have not hired anyone to do their own independent evaluation based on Wildland Urban Interface Code features for our district, no.
Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Rice.
Is there anyone here from Tahoe Douglas?
Thank you, Ms. Ray.
Bryce Cranch, Fire Marshal, Tahoe Douglas, for the record.
Hi.
Hello, Commissioner.
I'm not throwing rocks at you, honest.
Yes, sir.
The reason I wanted you up here is because Tahoe Douglas has a program for reducing fire danger in our communities. They send crews out, they thin the brush, they chip the brush, they carry it away. We don't have any big masticators that I've seen, but your guys work very hard out there. I have to clean it up because I can't use my home language. Yeah, I can. They worked our butts off to make sure that our homes are fire safe. And does this make any difference at all in the mapping situation where you guys come in and clean up the brush? I was part of the Fire Safe Council when it existed, and I know the work that they did. And I'm just so pleased with what Tahoe Douglas has been doing. But does it make a difference when it comes to these maps?
Well, these maps specifically show the Tahoe area as being in that high severity risk, and that hasn't changed in quite some time. And so that affects how we look at defensible space around homes, and probably most specifically for us, our sprinkler requirements for new construction, any new building, and homes that are remodeled past a certain square footage. But you're absolutely right. We have a tremendous amount of programs available to the public to lessen that burden on them and provide them assistance. Very proud of those programs, and they have a drastic effect on keeping the fire, when it's on the ground or it does expand into the canopies, away from those homes, and giving us a chance to protect those homes. And as we've seen in numerous fires in the area, including in the valley here, once a home is ignited, it becomes a fuel source to the homes around it, and it goes to home ignition. So anything we can do to reduce those homes from catching on fire initially or becoming fully involved is a drastic step in the right direction to reducing those massive home losses in fires.
Am I okay? And I want to clarify too. Full disclosure, I'm a residential designer is my other trade, and I interact with East Fork quite often. And so I also want to recognize it feels like we are casting stones, but I want to also recognize East Fork has done a lot of back and forth in collaboration and trying to work with our building industry. So I want to make sure you guys recognize I'm not trying to beat down. But that said, probably the most recent single instigator of increased construction costs has been the fire code of late. And so therefore that it's I'm getting a lot of voices, and obviously the other commissioners are too. So that's why we're trying to make sure we needle this down to try to make sure that this is equitable for everyone. Because it could, on a standard house, it's easy to hit $40,000 to $45,000 in additional cost of the house next door that would have been built 2 years ago versus today because of the new fire requirements. And so that's significant. And that's why it's important, and that's why there's members of the building industry here to talk about it. So that's why we're just trying to make sure that we're being equitable to everybody involved. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was clear on that not trying to beat people down necessarily, but we want to make sure that we're being fair and that we're not unknowingly driving construction costs up again when they're already pretty high. So just wanted to make sure we made that clarifying statement.
Thank you, Commissioner Tolbert. Do you have anything else for us?
No, ma'am.
Thank you very much for being here and for answering those questions. Yes, Ms. Ray.
Amy Ray, for the record, thank you. One of the things I would like to acknowledge is that your community development team has put in a lot of time and a lot of work to do an update to the codes as we're required to do. Our portion of it is one of the appendices. So I really don't want to see their work not be looked at just because of our appendice. We appreciate that our appendices our regulations are being adopted into county codes so that all members of the community can go to one spot to see what is a requirement for building in the area. However, ours is just an appendice. The regulations have already been adopted at our board, and your community development team has done a really great job at updating your Title 20 as far as their portion goes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to acknowledge that East Fork duly agendized these maps and gave the public opportunity to comment on them. I appreciate that. Nonetheless, the stakes are too high for us to just say too bad, public lost their opportunity. So I did want to make that comment. I think we're ready for public comment. Yes, we will open public comment on this matter.
Jim Jackson. It sounds like you need to take a little closer look at all these things, because if you look at what's going on a national level, home affordability is going to be a very big topic coming up in the next election. And there's going to be a lot of stress on that to reduce the cost of building homes. Now, I've been here enough times, I'm not necessarily in the favor of the developers. But I think in this case, these maps are drawn by somebody that's nowhere near here. Now, we had an instance several years ago of a decision made by somebody that was in Arizona called Painted Rock Mine, and you see what that's brought to us. I think you've spent a lot of money on consultants for a lot of different things that I don't think you should have. This might be one of them that if we can change these maps to what they really represent here and reduce the cost of these homes, I think that might be something worthwhile doing. But by some of the questions that you were bringing up, I don't think there's enough knowledge right now to vote on this thing. I think you need to look at it a little bit closer, because it is going to increase the cost of the homes. The other thing it's going to do, and I just ran into this because I just had to renew all my insurances on my home, the number of insurance companies that are not covering homes in this valley they're leaving in droves. There's only a few of them that are left. And those have quite a few restrictions on what they will or will not cover. And if they do cover you, your cost has gone up. Mine went up over 10% from last year. I feel fortunate that that's all it went up. Another company that we looked at, their costs went up 50% and everything because of these kinds of hazards. So you want to make sure if the hazard is real, fine. But if it's not, don't impose that on us. And I think you need to take a little bit closer look at it. And if you need to hire a consultant, I think this is one of the few times that might be worthwhile doing to get these maps more appropriate for this area. And somebody that lives in this area and looks at it on the ground can make the decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, and staff, thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment on Agenda Item 11.1, Ordinance 2025-1656, concerning revisions to Title 20 of the Douglas County Code and the proposed amendments to the International Fire Code and International Wildland Urban Interface Code. For the record, my name is Jeff Sudich, and I serve as the CEO of the Nevada Builders Alliance. The Alliance represents more than 1,100 members statewide, including builders, developers, contractors, and allied industries, many of whom are actively building and investing here in Douglas County. At the outset, I want to be clear, the Nevada Builders Alliance supports wildfire mitigation, life safety objectives, and responsible code adoption. Our members live and work in these communities, employ local residents, and share the goal of reducing wildfire risk for homeowners and first responders. However, as drafted, the Nevada Builders Alliance cannot support the adoption of this ordinance, specifically as it relates to East Fork Fire's Protection District adoption of the USDA-based WUI map. This significantly expands the WUI designation into established urban and suburban areas. Applying full WUI construction standards to areas that function as urban neighborhoods rather than true wildland urban interface creates serious unintended consequences. First, construction cost impacts. WUI construction requirements materially increase the costs for residential, commercial, and industrial development. When these standards are applied to urban infill, redevelopment, and established neighborhoods, they directly increase the cost of building. And from a home builder perspective, as was mentioned earlier, it increased those costs from roughly $10,000 to over $40,000 depending on where it falls. It increases the price of homes, and it increases the price of rents. And this is at a time when housing affordability is already critical and a critical issue for Douglas County residents. Secondly, insurance availability and affordability, which was previously brought up. Wildfire risk mapping is increasingly tied to insurance underwriting. Expanding WUI designations into urban areas risks triggering these higher premiums, coverage limitations, and outright non-renewals for these existing home buyers and for future buyers. Oh, these impacts, do I need to stop? I have a little bit more.
You have 30 seconds.
Okay. Third, misalignment with actual fire risk and response conditions. Urbanized areas with paved access, hydrant coverage, close proximity to fire stations, and reduced fire loads do not present the same fire behavior or suppression challenges as true wildland interface areas. Treating these areas identically under the WUI code does not reflect on-the-ground conditions or actual risk profiles. To be clear, this is not opposition to WUI standards where appropriate. Rather, it is a request that standards not be expanded into urban areas. On behalf of the Nevada Builders Alliance, we request that the commissions, the staff, and East Fork Fire all come together with the locals of Douglas County to communicate and figure out a better mapping system for this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Seelig.
Sorry for going over.
It's all right. Well, until you say your name, we don't hit go. So
until I say my name, beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'd request.
But you must say your name right off.
Christian Funk, General Manager. LLC, custom home builder here in the Valley. I'm going to request the board for 6 minutes instead of 2 because I'm here representing 2 new clients that have just been hit with this. So I'm going to. Can you vote on it?
You get 3.
I get 3? Okay. Well, then I'm going to go over. It's important to recognize that this is a difficult situation. I have the opportunity and challenge in my profession. I'm the tip of the iceberg. I'll get a client such as Brother Delaire or Mr. Delaire to come to me and say, hey, I would like to build a custom home. From the time that he initiates a conversation with me to the time I get to Nathan Tolbert to the time I actually get to permitting could be 6 to 7 months. One of the challenges that I'm experiencing here is I love Tim and he does a great job, and I'm going to counter his Northern Nevada is not the average. I wish I could build for the same price that I could up in Washington years ago. We don't have the trades, we don't have the people here, and so I would say, in fact, I just did this. I built 2 houses, 1521 Stephanie and 2748 Pamela. Exact same house, and I did this on purpose, so I wanted to get actual numbers. It cost me $17,000 more to initiate those requirements that we did. One home was LP, the other home I did full enclosed office with the other requirements. That is the cost. I'm happy to share that with you. That's exact apples to apples, exact same floor plan. That was the cost difference. So there is an impact here. I'm frustrated because I get to hear it from my clients. I tell them that there's an initiative that if you don't have next to a fire hydrant, then you're going to have to pay this fee, and then they start cussing up East Fork and I'm just like, guys, I'm just sharing the message, okay? This is what we have to do to accomplish this. So it's challenging. I have seen insurance companies that are saying, you know what, because it's high risk, we're bailing, we're getting out. We're not even going to be involved in it. So I do think it's important that a separate mapping to get boots on the ground here. I would recommend that the commissioners table this until we can get boots on the ground. I'm happy to sit down. I'm starting to realize maybe part of my job is not building homes anymore. It's going to be sitting there meeting with these wonderful folks and all you guys to try and bring the custom home builder community in with this. I'm not a developer. I don't want to be anywhere in that realm. That's more headache than it's worth. There's lots of challenges involved with this, but I think that we can overcome them if we get together. Amy has my email address. All you guys have my email address. I'm happy to sit down with some time so that I can plan it and put it on my calendar. Everybody knows if it doesn't get on a calendar, it doesn't exist. I'm happy to participate in some of these discussions to be able to make what's best for Douglas County, not for the national average. And just because every other jurisdiction has developed it, the reason why I moved here 27 years ago is because Douglas County was different. No offense, I don't want to be like everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Funk. Are there any other public comments? That was not for you. All right, we'll bring it back to the board. I heard the suggestion that we table this, and that's where my mind was going. I very much appreciate Mr. Davis and Mr. Davidson, your good work. I think this board, from what I'm hearing, is not ready to vote on this until the maps are more accurate. I know that there can be exceptions made, but that takes time and money. And I don't think we want to put that burden on individual landowners to add more time and money to their building to get something made right that should have been made right overall. So that's where I sit, and I'm open for other discussion. Commissioner Tolbert.
So I fear tabling because the implementation of this code is critical for our industry, because we need to know, we're in the middle of designing things right now. And so I'm not going to finish anything before Christmas. So am I designing to the 24 or am I designing to the 18 personally? So is there an opportunity for some kind of compromise? Would it help to approve the IRC IBC and just exempt the Exhibit B from our motion? Would that help the transition, or is that, I guess I'm asking you guys how that would work if that enables you to initiate the transition?
Tom Delaire, for the record. The fire requirements, B1 and B2, appendices B1 and B2 have been adopted by the fire boards already. So I don't know how that would, how that works really. So we could be in 2018 until you guys decide, or maybe this USDA map gets updated. It's taken years, and I can tell you the prior map was awful with high hazard, extreme hazards in areas where Bentley has an irrigated, sprinklered field or a disked field today with no vegetation on it whatsoever. But the map said it was high extreme hazard. Now it's a low hazard. So they did do a significant update on those maps, and I don't know how you want to how you want to handle that. I mean, it's, you know, we're going to need to be in the 2018 or the 2024. Everybody was planning on, and for the last 6 months.
Doug. Yes, I sense.
I'm sorry,
that we
Doug.
can-
I couldn't see you. I don't have my glasses on. I can't see that far.
So, Chief Deputy District Attorney Doug Ritchie.
Thank you. Doug Ritchie with the Douglas County District Attorney's Office. So the question is, you can adopt portions of the proposed code. You don't have to adopt the appendices, but what Tom Dallaire is saying is that the fire boards for both Tahoe, Douglas, and East Fork, their boards by resolution have adopted these current changes, which I think by reference adopt the new updated maps. If I understand what you're asking, if the board did not adopt appendices B1 and B2, what would happen? Well, what would happen is the current rules would be in place. The proposed appendices refer to the updated resolutions by the two fire boards, which would not be adopted. So you'd still be in the old resolutions that the fire boards had previously adopted. The problem you will have is the one we've had before, where the county has one code, the fire boards have adopted like different standards, and what's going to happen? I have always argued, and I continue to argue, that there's only one building official in Douglas County, and that's Tim Davis. Douglas County issues building permits, certificates of occupancy, and if there's a discrepancy, Tim's the final official. And even the state fire marshal recognizes the building official under NAC, well, I had it here, NAC 477.060. So what Mr. Dallaire was referring to is you're going to be in this weird spot where if the board doesn't adopt the current appendices, which adopt the resolutions, the updated resolutions, the fire boards, you'll be using the old stuff, which there'll be a conflict between our code and the resolutions the fire boards have adopted. Now, that's I would argue that's fine. I mean, it's going to cause some conflict because the fire marshals are going to be doing inspections based on their updated codes, updated maps, whereas our building officials are going to be relying on what this board has approved. So if you want to, for lack of a better word, kick the can down the road, you don't have a lot of road to kick it down because there's going to be conflicts. And to Commissioner Tolbert's point, builders, developers, I mean, they have a view on this stuff, but at the end of the day, they just want to know what the rules are so they can move forward. So that's probably that's a typical lawyer answer. You can adopt portions of this, but if you don't adopt the new appendices B1 and B2 for East Fork and Tahoe Douglas, there will be a conflict for a period of time between the code provisions until this board decides what they want to do with the map, specifically the maps.
The final arbiter will be Tim, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and the final arbiter, in my humble opinion, and reasonable people can differ, will be Tim as the building official in Douglas County.
Commissioner Gardner.
Mr. Ritchie, could we not table this and send it back and ask East Fork Fire to take another look at the maps and whether or not they're appropriate for our county and do a better study.
Yes, in the interest of housing costs and the fact that housing costs are seriously negative to our community right now.
Short answer is yes, you have that power. There are provisions you can adopt today. I think that Tim and Tom, Mr. Davis and Mr. Delaire, are recommending because they do make sense and they should be brought forward. But you could table this entire item or take selected portions of it to table.
Commissioner Gardner.
Yeah, I just, rather than try to cherry pick items out of here, which is going to be extremely difficult, I would just prefer to table. Which is items number 2, 3, and 4? Huh? Appendix B1 and B2. Okay.
Is that a motion?
I feel so strongly about this that I'm not ready to approve anything today because I want the fire board to understand our serious dismay and to take another look at it, respectfully requesting them, knowing that they did hold public hearings that were not adequately attended by the public who cares, but it needs to be done again because I don't believe the fire board has thoroughly vetted their other options and that these maps are detrimental to our community. That's my feeling. Commissioner Tolbert?
Yeah, I don't disagree. But I guess given what Mr. Ritchie said, I would love to hear, Mr. Davis, what your recommended action would be. I mean, you hear our reservations, and if you had your druthers, what would that action be?
Commissioner Tolbert, thank you for the question. You folks appointed me to make these decisions, and I'm comfortable doing that. I have a good relationship with our fire team. I have no problem having these conversations. If we need to table anything for the betterment of the public and our constituents, it should just be the appendices. We need to move forward with adopted code so that people can build currently in our jurisdiction and have clarity. If it's going to come down to me making decisions, I'm fine. I can do that. It's what you hired me to do.
Commissioner Rice.
It seems to me that the board is in a quandary at the moment of not knowing what to do on this issue. What is the right thing for our citizens? What is the right thing for public safety? I am not at a point where I'm comfortable making a decision. I do know that living where I live, this will have a great impact on the people around me. My house is paid for, so you can't hurt me very much. Yeah, I guess you could if you wanted to, but I'm just not comfortable with where we are with this because I remember what happened last time. And that is still stuck in my throat. And the houses that we had to intervene on behalf of the homeowner who was trying to figure out what in the world am I going to do here. And I know that Chief Carlini was a great help in resolving some of those. But unfortunately, times have changed, people have changed, people in control of things have changed, and I'm not ready to make a decision in this matter.
I would prefer not to take any action and wait and hear what the fire board will do in response to our serious concerns. I realize that puts you in a bad spot, and I hope that we can be quick about reconsidering this. That's not really the right word, continuing this conversation and taking action in the near future. We meet every 2 weeks. So as soon as we hear some kind of further discussion by the fire board and some kind of plan by the fire board, I'd be willing to pass this with the appendices removed until they actually take action. But that's my feeling. So I would let it die unless someone wants to make a motion. This will just effectively be tabled until it's brought back to us. So does anyone want to make a motion, or should we let it sit? I see no motion, so we will leave it at that, and very much appreciate your work and the fact that this complicates your life.
Just real quickly.
Chief Deputy District Attorney Doug Ritchie.
Thank you for your indulgence. Just to clarify, if no action is taken today and you're not tabling it to a date certain, you will need to reintroduce, so there'll be at least 2 hearings. Yeah.
All right, then let's have a motion to table this to a date certain. When is the next fire board meeting? The 3rd week? So we could table this to our first meeting in February.
We need 2 weeks to publish. Okay.
So,
Mr. Dallaire.
Tom Dallaire, for the record. Just so we're clear, we are going to be keeping the 2018, the current codes the way they are today through whenever this comes back. So just so it's clear to you guys and clear to the public that we are not going to be going with Northern Nevada amendments. We are not going to be including any of the code updates. So we are going to be designing everything that we've noticed for the past 6 months to the public that we were changing to the 2024 code, and it's going to be the 2018 code. So there could be potentially projects that were designed for the 2024 code that need to be compliant with the 2018 code. Just so we're clear. I just want to make sure that everybody understands the situation we're in.
February 5th is the first meeting in February.
Is there any indication from East Fork Fire?
So I'm wondering if there's we could it looks like we are considering tabling this for up to 90 days, and that way we won't have to have a first reading again. I'm wondering if there's any action that we could take that would give Mr. Davis additional authority to require either the 24 code or the 18 code as he sees fit.
No, you would have to enforce the currently adopted code, which is 2018. If your intention is to do 2024, then you would adopt that today, except for the parts that you have concerns about. It'd also be helpful for staff to know if the primary concerns, I think this would be helpful for the fire boards as well, is your concerns the maps and how they were created? Or are there other concerns with the resolution that they've adopted, which incorporate those maps? I mean, in fairness to Chief Ray, the maps are created by a completely separate entity. It's a third party. And if the board's concerns...
Doesn't matter. They have control. They could choose different maps. They could get an outside entity to fix the maps. They have a lot of options.
That's the information that would be, I think, helpful to the fire boards, is what are the questions or concerns this board has specifically? And it sounds like it's the maps.
Yes. The only concern I heard in the discussion was the fire board's maps.
Okay.
What we could do is recess for lunch, and that would give us opportunity to discuss this with the county manager, to consider additional, individually, not collectively, as a group, additional thoughts. Honestly, I want leverage with the fire board, and that's why I don't want to pass any of this. I think that's where I'm going to end up. So I doubt pausing for lunch is going to make a difference. That's how I feel. Does any commissioner feel differently? All right, let's have a motion to table this for
Actually,
up to.
I do feel differently, because I feel like we're handcuffing our building department by not adopting the building code. We can adopt the building code by adopting 1 and 2 and not choosing 3 and 4. So that would allow the building department to adopt the 2024 international and residential building and codes and move forward with 95% of what the building department does. The fire department is already going to be using their code for what they do, regardless of what this board says. So we're kind of cutting off our nose, in my opinion, if we simply table it and don't allow our staff to do the code change that they're set up to do.
Under which scenario are we going to be more likely to get a response from the fire board?
I would think that this entire meeting may have caught the attention of the fire board, I would like to think. And plus, we're not adopting that. So that allows the building department now to accept, potentially, I might be overspeaking, but they could possibly accept a building permit without on their own discretion, since we didn't adopt the new code. So I'm not sure how that exactly works, but we're trusting Tim to make the difference there. And to remove my hat, my personal experience is that I've found our building official to be very knowledgeable and open to common sense approach. So if I had to trust somebody, those 3 guys there that I personally would trust.
Me too. I would trust these 3 guys. Is there any other?
So, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2025-1526 or 1656, revising Title 20 of the Douglas County Code by repealing and replacing only Chapter 20.800 and Appendix B, the Uniform Code revisions.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 I'm going to go yes.
Opposed? Still thinking?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, opposed? 1, me. So motion passes 4-1. I hope that we hear back quickly from the fire department on the rest. I hope the fire department will make changes to those maps or brainstorm some other way to give relief to these people. Waive all of your exemption fees and make them overnight. Whatever you have to do to make it workable without adding costs to housing, I hope you will do that. So I don't know, where does this leave us now with B1 and B2 not adopted?
B1 and B2 are not adopted. just to be cleaner, because they'll probably, well, hopefully there'll be some changes. You'd probably need to reintroduce it and publish it again anyway. So to answer your question, once, thank you. We do have an appendix B1 and B2, the one that's currently adopted. But to make the changes that reference the new updated resolutions, you would need to introduce and adopt that ordinance at a later date. It's a little confusing because there is a B1 and B2 in place, which references the prior resolutions of the two fire boards, the old resolutions.
So we can function indefinitely under this scenario?
Yes, except Doug Ritchie again. Yes, except for, I think there'll be a conflict between what the fire marshals, the districts will be, they'll be implementing the resolutions that their boards have adopted, which will be slightly different than what our code provides for. So there will be a conflict. But what I've said is at the end of the day, there's only one building official, and that's Tim Davis.
Could we vacate B1 and B2? Would that be of any?
No, because that what you agendized today was to adopt updates to B1 and B2. If you wanted to rescind the existing B1 and B2, that'd be a separate item. And probably by the time you get that done, hopefully they'll have some proposed revisions. AJ may have something.
Sorry.
Deputy District Attorney Hames.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we do have a B1 and a B2 already. Those adopt the 2018 versions, essentially, of the IFC and the WUI code as amended by East Fork and Tahoe Douglas. So their resolutions, I don't know off the top of my head what those resolutions say, but I know at least it's their opinion that the prior resolutions adopt the maps that we're opposed to today. So if the only objection is the maps, they may already be adopted by the 2018 resolutions of the East Fork and Tahoe Douglas fire boards. So what will end up happening is the code itself will be different. The fire boards will be implementing the 2024 code as revised, and we'll be looking at the 2018 code as revised. But I don't know that will actually have any effect on the maps, because the 2018 resolutions that we adopted by reference may already have adopted those maps.
Mr. Hames, I have a question for you. It wasn't until recently that we adopted the WUI codes, maybe 2 years ago. Okay, they're not included in the 2018. There was no, the codes were not, to my understanding, the WUI codes were not adopted in 2018. They were only adopted a couple years ago.
Correct. We adopted the 2018 versions a few years ago. So there will be a discrepancy between the codes, and maybe that discrepancy will cause enough friction that there'll be some incentive to revise the maps. But I don't know if the maps themselves are, I don't know if we're free of the maps, I guess is what I'm saying, if that was the intent of the board.
I think the intent of the board was for us to work together to get a resolution of this and to raise a red flag for the fire board to recognize that there is a conflict and that the noticing was done, but there was not any participation in those, and that we needed that participation to happen. So I think all the parties understand where we stand and that this will get resolved. Then that's what we want to do. We want to resolve this and make it everybody jive and work together. So if I'm not speaking out of line, I believe that was the direction of this board was. We're getting a lot of friction from the proposed amendments, the new maps, and we need to figure out a way to make this work. And there's lots of options out there. Even if it was exempting the general improvement districts from that, there's things out there that can be done to make this work for everybody.
Thank you. With that, we will recess until 2 o'clock for lunch. It is 2:00 and we are ready to reconvene our regular meeting. And we are on agenda item 11.2 for possible action discussion on the 24-month review of the adopted development agreements between Douglas County and the following entities. A, Parkhaven Estates, Armill Properties LLC. B, Montera, formerly Park Place. And C, Perry Enterprises LLC. We have with us Tom Delaire, Community Development Director, and Andrea Pauling, Deputy Community Development Director. Will you be covering A, B, and C as 3 distinct areas? Okay, very good. I'd like to make a statement when you get to B before you start B, but we'll start with A. So thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Andrea Pauling, Community Development. So we're back again for our 24-month reviews of our development agreements. I always like to start with the definition. We got a lot of people in the audience today that I'm sure is just waiting for this definition. But anyway, I won't read it verbatim. You guys can read it, but obviously it is a voluntary contract between Douglas County and a person who owns or controls property within that. And it outlines obligations and everything they need to do while they go. All right, so brief overview. This is required to come every 24 months. Each development agreement needs to have a review under NRS 278-0205 and under Douglas County Code 2400-050. So we're responsible to come to you guys. We also need to send out 30-day notices to all of the parties, which we did. And then we will have a brief summary in here, giving you like a status of the projects. We also have the staff report in here in your packet under pages 1087 to 1091. That will break it down even further for you. Oh, you are there. All right, so we're going to be going over Parkhaven Estates. You can find all the information regarding this one under pages 1093 to 1120. Then we'll be going to Montera, PPEG LLC. That is under pages 1121 to 1233. It's a big packet. Then we have Perry Enterprises LLC, and that's under pages 1234 to 1277. All right, I'm going to start us out with Parkhaven Estates, Armill Properties LLC. We were here 2 years ago, and I wanted to start out with this. This one specifically was under a lot of meetings with this developer, and it was not in compliance at the time. I am pleased to say this is in compliance today. So I'll start out with just a little bit. I'll read a little bit of this to you. The owners in the county entered into this development agreement back in August of 2005. The development agreement was regarding off-site dedications and construction improvements for drainage and sewer facilities. Litigation then ensued between the applicant and the county when modifications to the subdivision were subsequently denied in 2006. There was a resolution of the dispute in a form of a settlement agreement and mutual release, and that was reached between the applicant and the county in 2007. In March of 2011, county staff contacted the owner regarding initiating a conditional letter of map revision as required by the settlement agreement. And the next step for the owner is to complete the work under a site improvement permit and then submit for a letter of map revision. So in 2018, the property owner brought forward and received approval on a tentative subdivision map for 2 public drainage and access parcels and 25 residential lots that are vested today to be constructed in a single phase. A final subdivision map needed to be presented by October of 2022. In October of 2022 through December 2023, the developer and staff discussed resolutions of this development. We continued that into last year as well, and the developer now has submitted the site improvement permit, and is working on the tentative subdivision map right now. The SIP was issued in August of 2025, and the project must be inaugurated within 180 days of issuance, and it will expire 2 years from permit issuance. They are in compliance, and we've had conversations with Mr. Gabor and with his attorney regarding this, and I'm available for any questions regarding this if you have anything.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you. 180 days, so that's 6 months, basically, from August?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And all the, as I understand it, I've been out there many times. The infrastructure is in, the roads, the curbs, all that, right? So I'm glad to hear that we have set a timeline on this, 180 days. So we're August, September, October, November, December. We're approaching construction dates, right? What does his, when does he anticipate breaking ground and starting to build?
Tom Delaire for the record. He has built the improvements. They're going through the inspection process. The water line and the sewer line have sat for quite a while, and they were getting all those tested again because of how long they sat. And so he's trying to get the compliance and the list done off of the inspection reports that have been performed by the county staff. And so once those are all addressed and everything can be released for the public, then he can file we can record his final map. I believe that final map is in for review right now, and we're waiting on these improvements to be performed, or he could post a bond to do the work so we can create those parcels sooner than later.
I just wanted to add one more. Andrea Pauling, we've also sent a letter to his engineer, a list of everything that is still needing to be looked at. So all the communication has happened, and it's in the works.
I'd like to see, the fewer development agreements we have, the better. And if we can get this kicked off and he can get them built, that would be great. So thank you.
Any other questions about Park Haven? Okay, then I will make this statement. The characterization that the county has not responded to Mr. Pegram's letter, or that the county and Mr. Pegram have not been working together to resolve this matter, was inaccurate. The parties have been in regular cooperative communication. While Mr. Pegram has the option to seek permits and construct Muller and Hayborn on his own, a broader solution that addresses the current flood mapping and updated design standards is under discussion and has been delayed by the lawsuit with David Park. With that preface, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairwoman Hales. This is Tom Delaire for the record, and the Montera, which was formerly known as Park Place and is now PPEG, owned by PPEG LLC, came in under a PD 02-05. So it was back in 2002 when the development was planned. It was under construction, and the first phase was completed, and then the map was recorded on August 24th of 2005, creating the 118 lots. The owners in the county entered into a development agreement in 2006 on July 20th, and then the board approved amendments to that development agreement on July 17th, 2008. That was the first amendment, which I believe is in your packet. And then on December 3rd, 2009, the second amendment amended the timing and the dedication of land and improvements to Muller Parkway and Hayborn Road, and the phasing plan developed schedule for the planned development, which has made all of Phase 2 required as they build out Phase 2 in a whole bunch of different phases, and we have the phasing plan in the agreement. But as they do certain phases, they are responsible for certain sides of the road, Hayborn Road and Muller Parkway. And so that's the amendment that created that timing, or right here, this one, sorry, the 2012 one. The third amendment created the timing, and it has specifically requested that he design one phase of the road, and then by the second phase, build the road, that road section from those prior amendments. And in 2015 or 2025, which I believe was phases 2H. I want to say, just a second, sorry. 2H, where's the schedule? Dang it. Yeah, 2025 was 2H. Improvements must be completed as a 4-lane major road, urban collector road, which is, they're talking about Muller Parkway on the west side, so it's the westerly side heading towards the existing improvements. In August of 2025, those were supposed to be completed. And so to date, we have not, those have not been started. The Hayborn Road has not been started. And we are continuing, the district attorney's office continues to be in communications with his representatives. And our CLOMAR from the county and doing Muller Parkway's design was completed or was approved by FEMA back in July of this year. And so as of December 25th, this development is still not in compliance with the development agreement. And we continue to work with the individual and his representatives to make it compliant. And here's some pictures. These are, I think, are from last year. We didn't go out and get pictures, but there hasn't been any change to them. Questions?
I don't have a question, but I do want to just take a moment of appreciation for the cooperative conversations that are happening between the parties and emphasize that there was a 24-month pause due to nobody's fault, just waiting.
Thank you.
I would like to respond, particularly to the chairwoman's comments.
Commissioner Tarkanian.
So you made a comment that there's been communications between the parties. It's my understanding there's been some communications between the attorneys of each party. There's been a letter that was sent, I think it was a month or two ago, with the list of requests. And as of, I don't know, if a week ago or so, when last time I spoke with Mr. Pagum, he had not had a response to that letter. I asked the county staff for a response to where we stood. In fact, you're aware of this, Chairwoman, because you were involved with it. I haven't received a response. If it's been given to Mr. Pagum, I haven't seen it. So I assume the comments that you made at the beginning were directed at my newsletter. That's the true facts. He certainly is in default because he hasn't built the road, but he hasn't built the road because after he had purchased the property, his property was put into the floodplain and he's been trying to get it out. I do agree that there's been a 24-month delay at no fault of anybody's because the county's been trying to get it out of the floodplain, which I think it's in the process of doing now. So anyways, that's my statement.
So noted, Commissioner Tarkanian. I think on this one we'll have to disagree, and that's okay. All right, moving on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to get, it's thinking.
All right. If there isn't any other questions on that one, we'll move on to Perry Enterprises LLC. Andrea Pauling, back on the record for you. This one, I'm not going to read everything just because this one hasn't changed at all at this point. So this one's still in compliance. And there's no development right now. If you could go forward, thank you. So I'm just going to skip down to the bottom here. The developer is in compliant. Once the land is under development and the concrete median is constructed and connected at Muller Parkway, staff would recommend bringing forward an ordinance to repeal this development agreement. Just to give you guys a heads up, there's no development currently going in right there, but this one is in compliance. I just kind of skipped through some of those things just because this is exactly the same presentation that I had 24 months ago. And this is as it stands today. So to the right there is Muller Parkway, and that's where the median connection will be needed once the development goes in.
Thank you. Can you give us an update? I know that there was a planned development in there behind Walmart on this stretch. That was I believe it was 169 manufactured homes called Stone Ridge Villas. Am I correct on that name?
Yes, you are.
And what is the status of that particular development? Do you know?
They haven't submitted anything for review or construction.
And then on the I believe it's the southwestern corner of Muller and Pine Nut Road as it goes out to the dump in the fairgrounds. There was a storage facility that was planned there, and has anything come forward on that?
Yes, Sierra Storage. We've been working with the property owner on that particular one. Those plans were approved. They have technically expired on the site improvement permit. We issued an extension of time for that because due to some health concerns or some health issues that the owner has had. He's out of the hospital now and has got obtained his commercial construction license in Nevada, and we issued the permits, and we're dealing with the funding right now, and we're hoping to issue those before the end of the year, so that he can get working on the site improvement, and then I think he's pulling 2 or 3 of the building permits also at the same time.
Is that still Butch Perry, or did he sell it to somebody else?
It's I want to say it's Sierra Storage something, I think is the name of it. Yeah, it's Sierra Storage actually owns the land. When you go
they
into
do.
the
So
viewer,
it's no longer,
it's the
it's
right.
no longer part of Perry.
Yeah, the owner of the property was admitted to the hospital and had some health issues, and so anyway, we worked with them and we were in the process of issuing those permits right now.
Any further questions on this one?
I did have one other question, and that was I've noticed some dredging, some excavation work that's taking place on part of that property, and it looks like maybe sewer drainage, or I don't know what that is. So is that part of this or not? It's totally separate.
Tom Delaire for the record. Yes, thank you for the question, Commissioner Gardner. That is, MGSD is extending their sewer line from the tribe. They're actually going around the tribe land allotment through Corley Ranch, and that's where the force main from Pine View is going to be connected in, and so they are doing that work right now.
I suspected that was what it was,
Yep.
but I wasn't positive, and I've had
Yep.
another of residents ask me what's going on there.
Yeah,
So okay,
and it
thank
made
you.
the connection to the sewer slightly shorter for the Sierra storage solution. Yeah, the sewer main down Pine Nut Road.
Anything else?
And that is all we have for you today, unless you have more questions for us.
Very good. Any other questions, commissioners? No. Okay, this is presentation only, so we won't take public comment.
It's
Oh, is
action,
it possible
yes.
action? Oh, yeah. I was looking at the wrong one. Okay, for possible action. Yeah, just so the possible action, let me see. Is it just to, I'm not on the right page. Just to approve the report?
Accept the report.
Okay.
Yes, accept the report as presented.
Good. Okay, thank you. Then is there any public comment? Mr. Jackson?
Jim Jackson. I don't know if it pertains to these 3 properties, but on all these agreements that seem to be between the county and these developers, it seems like the developers are always coming back wanting amendments, extending time, changing what they have to do, or they just don't do what they were supposed to do. The county seems to be going over backwards to try to make it work for them. Common sense would tell me that if they entered into a contract and they aren't doing what their contract says, then they shouldn't be able to develop the land. Put some pressure on them. If they were supposed to build Mueller Parkway and they're not doing it, and that was their agreement, then say the homes that you were going to build there are no longer approved, to get something moving in the right direction. It just seems that from plain old common sense that the developers are getting away with stuff, taking you guys advantage of you, taking advantage of the county's kind heart to help them any way they can, and then they come back and they sue you. It just seems kind of strange to me that we keep entering into these contracts with these developers when you know what they're going to end up doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. We feel you right there. Is there any other public comment? I will close public comment. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Gardner.
I move for the approval of the 24-month review of the adopted development agreements between Douglas County and the following entities. A, Parkhaven Estates, Armo Properties LLC. B, Montera, formerly Park Place. And C, Perry Enterprises LLC, as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Gardner, seconded by Commissioner Tolbert. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you for those updates. We are on agenda item 12 for presentation only. Announcements, reports, updates from county commission members, including updates on the various boards and/or commissions that they may be a member of or a liaison to, or any other meetings, functions they have attended, and any request by a commissioner for discussion of a future agenda item. Let's start with Commissioner Tarkanian.
I do not have anything to report.
Okay, Commissioner Tolbert.
Yeah, as part of the Carson Water Subconservancy District, we had our end of year meeting and and a review of the watershed. We had a report on that, and the trends are interesting. They did report that there was adequate water for the proposed growth in the areas, and I think there was it the Indian Hills General Improvement District in 2051 would outpace their current wells capacity, would need new wells or additional pumping, and I think Town of Minden was in a similar boat. Other than that, it was pretty good news, reasonable news, and then the director at James is retiring, and so the board is in the middle, and they have 3 prospects or 4 prospects that will be interviewed in January. So looking forward to a new era in the Carson Water Subconservancy, and want to recognize Ed James for his work over the last 30 years? 28 years, yeah. So, yeah, thank you, Ed, for everything you've done, and stick around. You keep your phone handy. So,
Commissioner Rice.
Yesterday, I attended a TRPA meeting. One of the things we discussed was the funding for TTD, Tahoe Transportation District. Once again, the city of South Lake Tahoe representative made comment that Nevada is not carrying their fair share of the load, and he was corrected immediately about the fact that Douglas County has carried a great deal of the load when it comes to funding for Lake Link and other transportation, and the representative from South Lake Tahoe was quick to change his opinion in that he was opining now that Douglas County had done their part and then some, and it's the state of Nevada that has not been forthcoming. So I accepted his correction, and we moved on from there. And that's unfortunately, that's the only thing I've been able to attend.
Well, we're very glad you're here, and we appreciate you defending the county like that. It's great. Commissioner Gardner.
Well, unfortunately, I have to say that at this time of year, my bathroom scales are reporting that I have been attending too many Christmas parties. So anyways, that's kind of what the season brings. And so, we've been doing that, including the Chamber of Commerce Christmas party last evening at the museum. I did want to note, so that's about all I have to report. I did want to note that Carson Valley Health has been recognized as one of the only centers, level 4 trauma center in the state. And I would hope that, so we have requests for future agenda items, and I would ask that perhaps we could reach out to Carson Valley Health and come do a presentation so we could celebrate that and also make sure that our community is aware of that process. So if we could take a look at a future agenda item on that, I would appreciate it.
I'll note a few things. The Water Subconservancy District meeting, as Commissioner Tolbert described, but very accurately, but I will also note that they know how to have a Christmas party. It is a lot of fun. I will note that I went to a Carson Valley Arts Council meeting, and they continue to do good work. Their board is growing. Their volunteers are growing. They're doing really good things, including thinking deeply about what to do with the Copeland Lumber Building, and making progress towards moving the Ironwood forward. Apparently I can't read my own writing, but I received a letter from Jim from the TTD, Jim, the director of the Tahoe Transportation District. An excellent letter summarizing the year's progress, and the TTD has had a very successful year by almost any measure, and he is really running with his position and making good things happen, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Jim Marino. Thank you very much. I had 3 delightful nights in a row. First, the Gardnerville Christmas kickoff. Next, the Minden Christmas celebration lighting of the gazebo, and then the parade of lights. And it just makes you proud and full of warmth and joy to be a part of this community. And including the TRE parade, where they put a whole bunch of lights on their OHVs and other things, and then the dinner there at the community center, which was packed and really delightful. I have another thing in my notes which I can't read, so I don't know what that is. Sorry about that. I want to note that the Carson Valley Community Theater has some performances ongoing of some delightful things through the end of the year, and I would encourage people to check out their website, Carson Valley Community Theater, and take advantage of those opportunities. Then the last thing I'm going to say is that it has been an honor this year to serve as chairwoman. I appreciate the support and the patience and the good things that we've gotten done. So, thank you for that. Now, closing comment. Do we have any public comment?
I learned a lot too. Chair Hales, thank you for your service, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. Charles Heffernan, Johnson Lane, but you thought I was going to get up here and talk about the Painted Rock Mine and violations that continue out there, and all the dust that's flowing off the trucks, and using water that they shouldn't be, etc. But I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to do something other than that. I'd like to talk. I wasn't able to be at your last meeting. I want to talk about the stormwater utility. I think having a consultant on board, this is an important issue for this community. I wasn't here when the last flood came through, but I'm a civil engineer by trade, and so I know a little bit about flooding and what it can do to a community. And you've been through the ringer in a couple of events, and this keeps getting kicked down the road. I attended at least 2 of the sessions that staff put on about this utility, and it's very evident that this is something you really have to do, and I'm glad you're taking the first step on that. But let's call this is a tax. It's not going to be a fee. I mean, you should also look at the developer fees. Are the developer fees equitable at this point? Or, tax the property owners, yes. But the developers, I don't know what kind of fee they're paying, but we should also include them in this rate study. I looked at the contract, and I would suggest that there be a meeting partway through the analysis so that the public could weigh in on what they're intending to do, rather than just come to the end, the study's all done, and that's it. Because let's face it, when they're at the end of their contract, there's not going to be, they're presenting their findings. They've been working with staff, yes, but the public hasn't had a chance. So I would like to see that if possible. And then the last thing I'd like to say about this, and I think I said it at one of the meetings. This is for the commissioners that are on this board. This is a life changer for your community. Maybe not now, maybe not 5 years from now, but I have the opportunity to go to the Tahoe Blue Center right now with going to the Night Monsters game. I think about 4 or 5 times. I better go quick. That is a feather in the cap for all the commissioners that were there at the time that was approved, pushed through, and built. That is a gorgeous facility. And I don't see this as anything less than that. You'll be able to look back on the day that this was formed, but make sure that it's equitable, and make sure we stay on track. We don't move things from one district to another, and this district's underfunded. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you for your time.
You can wrap up.
So I would just say, use your political capital. When this comes time to sell this tax to the homeowners, to the landowners, it's not going to be easy. And you're going to have to use political capital to go out and sell this. And if I can be of any help during that process, I'd be happy to. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for those comments. Mr. Jackson, you get 30 extra seconds too, if you want to.
I was going to say, I don't normally go over, but I will this time. Jim Jackson. Very nice comments. I agree with you. Do include us in any contracts or any decisions. You might be surprised on the reaction you get from us if we think we're really going to get something for the money. It's not that we don't want to spend it. We just want to make sure we get what we think we're going to get and everything. So, like I was telling you earlier, I don't know what I'm going to say when I get up here. I just get up here and I start talking. One of the things that I was going to say at the very beginning was, we're glad to see you back, Commissioner Rice. We missed you. My comments about the sheriff earlier were really heartfelt. Watching some of these other police chiefs across the country and how incompetent they are. We are very fortunate that we have a very competent sheriff, and that should be well known throughout the community. I think you guys also have taken a bum rap from me and from some other people that have criticized a lot of the things you do. That's what we're supposed to do, is keep your feet to the fire. Personal attacks on each of you, I don't agree with. I think that's inappropriate. I try not to mention a person by name when I'm saying something. You know who I'm talking about and everything, but there's no sense on getting nasty about it. I think talking about these contracts with these developers, it really has become a sore point that we see all these developers suing the county because they aren't getting what they want. Well, I'll be honest with you, we're not getting what we wanted from them in the first place. They made an agreement and they didn't live up to it. Take away their right to build their buildings. Maybe that'll get their attention. Play hardball with them. They're playing hardball with you and everything. So that's just plain old common sense. Any of the lawsuits I've ever been involved in is you go for the maximum and then you'll be happy with what you get when you get less than that and stuff. But you don't just roll over and give them what they want. Our county people seem to be very cooperative at trying to help a developer get what they want. Maybe they shouldn't be quite so cooperative and say, you agreed to this, now stick to it. Otherwise, you aren't going to get what you want. One of the things that I was talking about earlier is consultant fees. It seems, I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I didn't catch any of the stuff that was going on about getting a consultant to tell you how much tax to raise and all this kind of stuff. A lot of people don't like that. They think you're spending too much money on consultants, that some of this stuff that you're sending out is what we hired you to do. And now you're hiring the county staff to do that. That's fine. But then they're hiring a consultant to come back and tell you all what to do. 30 seconds. And that is the problem that's out there. I don't know how much you've spent in total. I didn't keep track of that. I don't need to keep track of that. It's just common sense. It's a perception. Perception usually becomes the rule and everything. So that's one of the things that a lot of people talk to me about. What did they do this time when you went to the meeting and everything? For the most part, I say, well, they did pretty good. Today you did pretty good. You know, not approving the fire department. You're going to have trouble with them. You could tell from the body language of the one individual that stood up here and talked, she didn't give a damn about what you guys thought. And you're going to have a problem there. But anyway, good thing you stood your ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson, and Merry Christmas. All right, we are adjourned.